Hi guys, tonight we slip quietly into the deep, warm earth of a hidden winter home. The sun is sinking, the air is turning cold river, finding every gap in your clothes. It feels like ice against your cheeks. The wind is coming off the fields like a cold river, finding every gap in your clothes. You can hear the dry grass snapping under your boots. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And if you want to let me know where you are listening from and what time it is where you are. I always love seeing those little snapshots of the world. Now dim the lights and let the story begin. The world above the ground is changing. You can feel it in your bones before you even see the frost. For weeks, the sun has been getting lower in the sky, casting long, tired shadows across the tall grass. The bright greens of summer have faded into a dull, dusty gold. The trees that stand along the river have dropped their leaves, leaving their branches bare and thin, like reaching fingers against the grey sky. It is autumn in the great open lands of North America, and the air carries a sharp warning. The heat of the sun no longer stays when the day ends. Instead, as soon as the light fades, a deep biting chill settles over everything. You are walking across the flat land, and the wind is your constant companion. It does not blow in soft puffs anymore. It pushes against you with a steady, heavy weight. You are wearing a heavy robe made from the thick hide of a bison. It is heavy on your shoulders, but you are glad for the weight. The fur is turned inward against your skin, trapping the heat your body makes. Without it, the wind would steal your warmth in a matter of minutes. This is the first real cold snap of the year. It is the kind of cold that tells you the easy days of summer are truly gone. The birds have mostly flown south, and the animals that stay are hiding away in burrows and thickets. As you walk, your boots make a crisp, crunching sound. You are wearing moccasins, which are soft shoes made from deerskin. To keep your feet from freezing, these winter moccasins have been lined with soft rabbit fur. The fur feels ticklish and warm against your toes. You can feel every bump and dip in the ground through the thin leather soles. The earth feels hard now, frozen solid by the nights that have already passed. It is no longer the soft, giving soil of the spring. It is like stone. You look ahead and see the village. It does not look like a village of wooden houses or tall tents. From a distance, it looks like a group of small, rounded hills rising out of the flat plain. These are the earth lodges. They are built low to the ground to hide from the wind. In this part of the world, the wind is an enemy that never sleeps. It can blow for days without stopping, howling across the open spaces where there are no mountains to block it. If you built a tall house here, the wind would shake it until it fell. But these houses are different. They are part of the earth itself. The people who live here have a clever secret. They know that while the air can become lethally cold, the earth stays much the same. If you dig down just a few feet, the ground does not care if there is a blizzard or a heat wave. It stays cool in the summer and holds onto the earth's natural heat in the winter. This is a historical fact that humans have used for thousands of years. The soil is one of the best blankets ever made. By building into the ground, these families can keep their homes at a steady temperature, often 10 or 15 degrees warmer than the outside air. Even before a fire is lit, you reach the edge of the village. The smell of the air changes here. It no longer just smells of dry grass and cold. Now, you can smell the sweet, heavy scent of wood smoke. It hangs low to the ground, trapped by the heavy air. You see thin ribbons of blue smoke rising from the very tops of the earthen mounds. There are no chimneys here, just simple round holes in the center of each roof. These holes let the smoke out and let a tiny bit of the pale evening light in. You stop for a moment to look at the nearest lodge. It is a massive structure, wide and strong. To build this, the people had to move tons of soil. You remember seeing the women and men working together in the warmer months to get it ready. They used a special tool called a scapular hoe. This is a digging tool made from the wide, flat shoulder bone of a bison, tied to a sturdy wooden handle. It is strong enough to cut through the thick roots of the prairie grass and scoop out the heavy clay. They dug a deep circle into the floor, then raised 4 massive pillars of cottonwood in the middle to hold up the roof. Now, that work is done. The frame of the house is covered in layers of willow branches, then a thick carpet of dried grass, and finally, a heavy layer of packed earth. Grass has even started to grow on some of the roofs, making them look like natural parts of the landscape. The walls are so thick that you could walk right over the top of the house and the people inside would only hear a faint thumping, like a heartbeat. The wind gives another sharp howl, whipping a dusting of dry snow across the ground. The snow doesn't melt when it hits the earth now. It skims along like white sand. You feel a shiver run down your back, your nose is red, and your breath comes out in thick white clouds that vanish in the wind. It is time to go inside. You walk toward the entrance of your lodge. It isn't just a door in the side of the wall. It is a long, narrow tunnel that sticks out from the main building. This tunnel is a clever bit of engineering. It acts as a cold trap. Because the tunnel is low and narrow, the heavy, sinking cold air from outside gets stuck in the passage. The warm air from the fire inside is lighter, so it stays up in the main living area. This keeps the bitter drafts from blowing directly onto the people sleeping by the fire. You duck your head and step into the tunnel. Immediately, the sound of the wind changes. Out on the plain, the wind was a roar, a constant screaming in your ears. Here, inside the wooden passage, it becomes a muffled hum. It sounds distant, as if it is happening to someone else in another world. The air in the tunnel is still chilly, but the biting edge is gone. You can feel the stillness. You take a few more steps, moving through the shadows. The floor here is packed hard and smooth. At the end of the tunnel, there is a heavy curtain made of thick bison hide. You push it aside, and a wave of warmth hits your face. It isn't the searing heat of a modern heater, but a soft, glowing warmth that smells of cedar wood, roasted meat, and the deep, rich scent of the soil. You stand there for a second, just breathing. The transition from the harsh, grey world of the winter plain to this golden, quiet space is almost overwhelming. Your eyes take a moment to adjust to the dim light. In the center of the large circular room, a small fire is burning. It isn't a large, roaring fire. It is a careful, steady one. The logs are glowing orange, and the light flickers against the massive wooden pillars that hold up the roof. Everything in here feels solid and safe. The thick earth walls seem to soak up every sound. You can no longer hear the dry grass snapping. You can no longer hear the wind. There is only the soft crackle of the wood and the quiet breathing of the people inside. You look up at the smoke hole high above. You can see one lone star twinkling in the dark blue square of the sky. It looks cold and far away. But down here, tucked into the belly of the earth, you are protected. You feel a sense of deep peace. The winter will be long. The snow will soon pile up high against the walls, burying the village until only the smoke holes are visible. But the lodge is ready. The earth is holding you. You set down your robe and move closer to the glow, feeling the warmth begin to seep into your chilled skin. This is the first night of the long sleep, and for the first time today, you are truly warm. The silence here is not empty. It is a full, heavy silence that feels like a physical thing. You watch a single spark rise from the fire, drifting slowly toward the roof before it vanishes. It is a moment to simply be still. You reflect on how small a person feels out in the wind, and how big and safe a person feels when they are tucked away like this. The earth is not just the ground you walk on. Tonight, it is your shield. You take a slow step down, leaving the narrow tunnel behind. The floor of the lodge is lower than the ground outside. It feels as if the earth has opened up a little pocket just for you. You have to step down 2 wooden stairs, carved from a thick log, to reach the main floor. The ground under your feet is not soft or dusty. It has been packed down so hard by years of walking that it feels almost like smooth, dark stone. It has a slight shine to it in the firelight, polished by the many soft moccasins that have moved across it over the seasons. As you stand on the lower level, you feel the weight of the world above you, but it does not feel scary. It feels like a giant heavy hand is resting gently on the roof, holding everything still. Outside, the wind is still trying to find a way in. You can hear it hum against the thick layer of soil on the roof, but the sound is so thin and weak now. It is like the buzzing of a fly outside a thick glass window. Down here, the air is heavy and still. It does not move unless you move. The lodge is much bigger than it looked from the outside. It is a wide, open circle. You look up and see the massive cottonwood pillars that you remember from the building days. There are 4 of them in the very center, thick as the bodies of grown men, reaching up to the high ceiling. Beyond those, there is another circle of smaller posts. This is a historical fact about these homes. A single earth lodge could be 60 feet wide and held enough space for 30 or 40 people to live together comfortably. It was not just a hut. It was a grand hall made of mud and wood, built to last for many years. You move away from the entrance, walking toward the outer edge of the circle. This is where the private spaces are. Between the outer posts, families have hung large skins to create small rooms. It is like a circle of tiny tents inside one big warm cave. You find your own space and sit down on a low platform. The platform is covered in thick willow mats and soft furs. As you sit, you feel the muscles in your legs finally start to let go. The walk across the cold plains had made them tight and sore, but the warmth of the lodge is like a soft bath. Near your feet, you see a parfleche. This is a special kind of bag made from tough, dried animal hide. It is shaped like a large, flat envelope and is painted with simple, colourful shapes in red and yellow. Inside this parfleche, you keep your most important things: a spare set of warm leggings, a small bundle of dried herbs, and a few strips of dried meat. You run your hand over the rough surface of the hide. It feels cool and dry. These bags are very strong. They can be dropped, stepped on, or carried for hundreds of miles without breaking. Having your bag here right next to your bed makes you feel like you truly belong in this space. You lean back against a willow backrest. This is a simple chair, made of many thin willow sticks tied together with string. It leans against one of the wooden posts and bends just enough to fit the shape of your back. It is very comfortable. From here you can see the whole lodge. The fire in the center is the heart of the home. Everything happens around it. You see a woman moving quietly near the fire, stirring a large pot. The steam rises up in a straight line, heading for the smoke hole in the ceiling. The smell of the lodge is deep and complex. There is the scent of the dry willow mats, which smells a bit like a summer riverbank. There is the smell of the bison robes, which is heavy and musky, and under it all is the smell of the earth itself. It is a clean, damp smell, like the woods after a rainstorm. It reminds you that you are underground. You are tucked away in the soil, just like the seeds of the corn and the squash that are waiting for the spring. You watch the way the shadows move on the ceiling. The firelight flickers, making the shadows of the big pillars dance. They look like giant guardians watching over the sleeping people. The ceiling is made of many layers. First, there are the big logs, then a layer of willow branches laid side by side. Above that is a thick carpet of dried prairie grass, and finally, the heavy feet of earth. You think about all that weight pressing down. It should feel heavy, but instead it feels like a shield. Nothing from the outside world can get through that much earth. Not the cold, not the wind, and not the noise. For a moment, you close your eyes and just listen to the silence. It is a very special kind of silence. It is not the silence of an empty place. It is the silence of a place that is full of life, but life that is resting. You can hear the soft pop of a seed in the fire. You can hear the rhythmic scrape of a stone tool being used far across the room. You can hear the soft breathing of a child sleeping nearby. These sounds do not break the silence. They just sit on top of it, like leaves floating on a still pond. You feel a deep sense of safety. In the world above, the frost is creeping across the grass, turning everything white and brittle. The rivers are starting to grow thin shells of ice along their banks. Any creature left out in the open tonight will have a hard time staying alive. But you are not in the open. You have stepped down into the dark, and in the dark you found light and warmth. You reach out and touch the wall behind your bed. The earth is cool to the touch, but it isn't freezing. It feels solid and permanent. You know that even if a great storm comes and blows for a week, this wall will not shake. It will not let a single breath of cold air through. You feel a wave of tiredness wash over you. It is a good kind of tired. It is the feeling of a job finished and a journey ended. You are home, and the home is the earth, and the earth is kind. The firelight dims a little as the wood burns down to glowing coals. The orange light turns a deeper red, casting a soft glow over the whole room. You watch the red light catch on the edge of your parfleche bag. You think about the food stored in the pits under the floor, and the wood piled high near the door. There is enough of everything. The lodge is a world of its own, a circle of warmth in a vast cold land. You let your head rest against the willow backrest and watch the smoke drift slowly upward, losing itself in the shadows of the roof. There is nowhere else you need to be. The night is long, but the earth is deep, and the fire is steady. You are exactly where you are meant to be. You move closer to the middle of the lodge, where the fire is burning. This central spot is the most important part of the whole house. Everything in the lodge is built in a circle around this one patch of heat. The fire pit is a wide, shallow hole dug into the hard ground. Around the edges of the hole, there are large, smooth stones. These stones have a job to do. During the day, they soak up the heat from the flames. By the time the fire is turned down for the night, the stones are so hot they glow with a secret warmth. They hold onto that heat and let it out slowly, like a warm hug that lasts until the morning. A historical fact about these fires is that they were never really allowed to go out. In the winter, keeping a fire going was much easier than starting a new one. The family would keep the heart of the fire alive under a layer of grey ash. Even when it looked like the fire was dead, a little poke with a stick would find a bright red coal hiding underneath. This small coal could wake up a whole new fire in just a few minutes. It was a symbol of the home's life. As long as the fire was breathing, the home was alive. You sit down on the ground near the stones. You can feel the heat on your face and hands. It feels different from the warmth of the sun. The sun's warmth is wide and covers everything, but the fire's warmth is sharp and focused. It pricks at your skin in a pleasant way. You reach out your hands, spreading your fingers wide. Your skin looks orange in the light. You can see the small lines on your palms and the shadows between your fingers. It is a simple pleasure, just feeling your blood start to move faster in your hands as they get warm. Next to the fire, you see a clay cooking pot. This pot is a very special tool. It was made by hand, shaped from wet clay found down by the river. The person who made it pressed the side of a woven basket against the wet clay to give it a pattern. Now that the pot has been baked in a fire, those patterns are frozen in the stone-like sides. The pot does not have a flat bottom like the pans you might see today. Instead, it is rounded, almost like a large egg. This shape allows it to sit perfectly between the hot stones of the fire pit. It stays steady while the soup inside bubbles and sings. You pick up a small branch of dry wood from a pile nearby. The wood is light and snaps easily. You toss it onto the coals. For a moment, nothing happens. The branch just sits there, turning black at the edges. Then a tiny yellow flame licks the side of the bark. It grows bigger, turning into a bright flash of blue, and then a steady, cheerful orange. You watch the way the flame moves. It is never still. It dances and jumps, reaching up toward the smoke hole in the ceiling. It looks like a living thing that is hungry for the air. As the wood burns, it makes a soft, rhythmic sound. It is a mix of crackle and hiss. Sometimes a little pocket of sap inside the wood gets too hot and goes pop, sending a tiny spark flying into the air. You watch the spark. It travels up in a spinning path, glowing like a tiny star until it hits the cooler air near the roof and vanishes. The smoke is thin and pale. It smells of the forest and the open plains. Because the wood is dry, the smoke does not make your eyes sting. It just drifts up in a straight, lazy line, pulled by the draft from the hole high above. This is a moment of deep quiet. You look across the fire at the other side of the lodge. The light only reaches so far. Beyond the circle of the fire, the lodge is full of soft, velvety shadows. You can see the shapes of large baskets and the hanging bundles of dried corn, but you cannot see the details. The fire creates a small world of light in a much larger world of darkness. It makes you feel very close to anyone else sitting around the circle. When you were in the light of the fire, you were part of the family. The darkness outside the circle belongs to the wind and the cold. You notice how the firelight changes the look of everything. The wooden pillars look like they are vibrating. The shadows on the floor stretch and shrink as the flames rise and fall. It is like the lodge itself is breathing. You lean forward and use a pair of willow tongs to move a hot coal. These tongs are just a long branch of willow wood that has been bent in half. They are simple, but they let you pick up a piece of fire without burning your fingers. You move a glowing coal closer to the clay pot to keep the soup simmering. The smell of the soup begins to fill the air. It is a simple smell of dried corn, beans, and perhaps a bit of salt. It is a heavy, comforting scent that reminds you of full bellies, long afternoons in the sun. In the winter, food is more than just a meal. It is a way to keep the fire inside your own body burning. Every spoonful of warm soup helps you fight off the chill that lives just outside the walls. You watch a bubble rise to the top of the pot and burst, releasing a little cloud of steam. You take a deep breath, filling your lungs with the warm, smoky air. It feels thick and good. You think about the people who built this place. They knew exactly where to put this fire. They knew how the air would move and how the smoke would find its way out. It is a very clever way to live. Instead of fighting the winter, they have made a place where the winter cannot go. The fire is your guard. It stands in the center of the room and keeps the cold at bay. You sit in silence for a long time, just watching the embers. The embers are the best part of the fire. They are the deep, glowing red coals that remain after the flames have died down. They look like a city of tiny glowing mountains. If you look closely, you can see different colors in heat bright whites, deep oranges, and soft, dusty purples. The heat coming off the embers is steady and strong. It doesn't flicker like the flames. It just glows, pushing the warmth out in every direction. You feel the heaviness in your eyelids. The warmth of the fire is making you feel sleepy. It is a very safe kind of sleepiness. You know that as long as those embers are glowing, you will be warm. You know that someone will wake up in the middle of the night to add another log, keeping the heart of the house beating. You let out a long, slow sigh. The world outside is a place of ice and wind, but here, by the stones in the clay pot, life is slow and golden. You watch one last flame curl around the edge of the wood before it settles into a steady, quiet glow. The fire is doing its job, and you can finally rest. You stand up from your spot by the fire and walk toward the outer edge of the lodge. As you move away from the bright orange flames, the air becomes just a little bit cooler, but it is still very pleasant. You reach out your hand and touch the wall. It feels solid and very thick. This is not like a thin wall of a tent or the light wood of a summer hut. This wall is made of the earth itself, and it feels as strong as a mountain. The wall is cool to your touch, but it does not feel icy like a stone in the river. It has a soft, dusty texture. You run your fingers over the surface. You can feel the small bumps and ridges where the mud was pressed into place by human hands. As you look closer in the dim light, you can see tiny bits of dried grass and small roots peeking through the dried clay. These bits of grass are like the hair on a hide. They help hold the mud together so it does not crack or fall away. A historical fact about these walls is that they are often 2 or 3 feet thick. That is as wide as a large man's shoulders. Because they are so thick, they act like a giant sponge for heat. During the day, the warmth from the fire slowly seeps into the earth. At night, when the fire gets low, the walls start to give that heat back to the room. It takes a long time for the cold from the outside to travel through 3 feet of packed soil. By the time the cold gets halfway through, the sun is usually coming up again. The earth is a natural blanket that never wears thin. You find a small tool resting on a ledge near the wall. This is a slicking stone. It is a very smooth, heavy stone that was found in the bed of a nearby creek. It is shaped perfectly to fit in the palm of your hand. You pick it up and feel its weight. The stone is cool and feels like silk. This tool was used when the lodge was first being built. When the mud on the walls was still wet and soft, someone used this stone to rub the surface over and over again. This slicking made the wall very smooth and hard, almost like a piece of pottery. It helps the wall stay strong and keeps the dust from falling into your bed. You hold the stone for a moment, feeling the history in it. You think about the many hands that have held this stone before you. You think about the women who spent days smoothing these walls, making sure their families would have a clean, dry place to sleep. You put the stone back on its ledge, feeling a sense of respect for the simple tools that make life possible. Everything here has a purpose. Everything here was made by hand from things found in the woods or the water. The smell near the wall is different from the smell near the fire. Here it smells deep and old. It is the scent of the ground after a heavy summer rain. It is a clean, honest smell. You lean your shoulder against the wall and close your eyes. You can feel the massive weight of the roof pressing down, but it does not feel heavy in a bad way. It feels like the earth is giving you a giant hug. You are tucked into the side of the world, safe from the biting wind that is currently trying to bite the grass outside. This is a moment of deep silence. You press your ear against the cool, smooth mud. You listen very closely. You cannot hear the wind at all now. You cannot hear the crackle of the fire from this far away. All you can hear is the very faint, deep thrum of the earth. It is a sound so low that you feel it in your chest more than you hear it in your ears. It is the sound of the world being still. In this moment, you feel very small, but you also feel very protected. You are like a seed waiting in the dark soil, knowing that the earth will keep you safe until it is time to grow again. You move your hand along the wall until you find a place where the light from the fire catches the texture. You can see the different colors of the clay. Some parts are a dark, rich brown, while others are a pale, dusty tan. There are even little flicks of grey and red. It is like a painting made by the land. You notice a small hole in the wall, no bigger than your thumb. It was likely made by a small beetle or a root that has since dried away. You poke your finger into it and feel how hard the earth has become. It is like stone, but warmer and more alive. You think about the layers that make up this wall. On the very outside, there is the wild grass of the plains, which is now covered in a thin layer of frost. Under that is the thick pile of soil that was dug from the floor. Under that is the layer of willow branches. And finally, this smooth, slicked inner wall. Each layer is a shield. Each layer is a promise that the winter will not get in. You feel a great sense of peace, knowing that there is so much between you and the cold. The lodge is a circle, and the wall is the boundary of your world. Inside the circle there is life, warmth, and the smell of soup. Outside the circle there is only the white frozen dark. You walk slowly along the curve of the wall, following the circle of the house. Your feet make no sound on the hard-packed floor. You pass by the storage pits and the sleeping platforms, always keeping one hand on the cool, solid earth. It feels like a guide leading you through the shadows. As you walk, you notice how the wall curves inward as it goes up. It meets the roof in a soft, rounded shape. There are no sharp corners here. Everything is soft and curved, like the inside of a shell. This shape is very strong. It distributes the weight of the heavy soil and the snow so that the wooden beams do not break. It is a very clever way to build. The people who lived here did not need books to tell them how to do this. They learned by watching the way the hills were shaped and how the animals made their dens. You stop walking and take one last look at the wall. In the flickering light, it looks almost like it is moving, as the shadows of the fire play across the bumps and ridges. It is a living part of the home. It breathes with you, it holds the heat for you, and it stands guard while you sleep. You feel a wave of gratitude for the dirt and the clay. It is the simplest thing in the world, but tonight it is the most valuable thing you own. You pull your bison robe tighter around your shoulders and move back toward your sleeping mat, feeling the solid strength of the earth watching over you. You lie back on your sleeping mat and let your eyes wander upwards. Above you, the roof of the lodge reaches into the shadows. It is not flat like the ceiling of a modern room. It is a wide, gentle curve that looks like the inside of a giant wooden bowl. In the flickering light of the fire, you can see the skeleton of the house. This is what keeps the tons of earth and the heavy winter snow from falling down. It is a beautiful, strong web of wood that has been put together with great care and cleverness. Your eyes follow the 4 big central pillars. They are the strongest parts of the lodge. These posts are usually made from cottonwood trees. Cottonwood is a good choice because it grows large and straight near the rivers. You can see the marks on the wood where the bark was stripped away long ago. The wood is now a dark, smoky brown. It has been polished by the heat and the smoke of 1,000 fires. A historical fact about these roofs is that they were built to be incredibly strong. In the summer and autumn, people would often climb up onto the roof to sit and talk, or to look out across the plains for buffalo. The roof was like a second floor for the village, strong enough to hold the weight of many people at once. Leading away from the big central posts are the rafters. These are long, thinner logs that lean from the outer walls up toward the middle. They look like the spokes of a giant wheel. They are laid very close together so that there are no big gaps. You think about how much work it took to find so many straight trees. Each one had to be cut, trimmed, and carried here. There were no metal saws or nails. The people used stone axes to fell the trees and heavy ropes to pull them across the grass. As you look closer, you see how the beams are held together. They are tied with sinew. Sinew is a very strong cord made from the dried tendons of a bison. When it is wet, it is soft and easy to wrap around the wood, but as it dries, it shrinks and becomes as hard as wire. It pulls the logs together so tightly that they cannot move. You can see the dark, shiny loops of sinew at every joint. It is a natural blue that never gives up. It has held this roof through many storms and many winters. Hanging from the beams, you see the winter's food. There are long strings of dried squash rings. This is a very common sight in an earth lodge. The women would take the big, round squashes and slice them into thin rings. They would then slide these rings onto long willow sticks and hang them in the sun to dry. Now that it is winter, the rings are tough and chewy, but they hold all the sweetness of the summer. When it is time for dinner, a few rings are pulled down and tossed into the soup pot. They soak up the water and become soft and delicious again. Seeing them hanging there makes you feel safe. It is a sign that the family was busy during the harvest and that no one will go hungry while the snow falls. The ceiling is not just wood. Above the beams, you know there is a thick layer of willow branches. These are smaller and more flexible. They fill in the spaces between the big logs. On top of the willows is a layer of thick dried grass. This grass acts like a filter. It keeps the heavy soil on top from falling through the cracks and landing in your hair while you sleep. Finally, there is the earth itself. It is a heavy, thick blanket that covers everything. You think about the weight of it all. It is thousands of pounds of nature resting just a few feet above your head. Instead of feeling scary, this weight feels like a comfort. It is the weight of protection. The wind can howl as much as it wants, but it cannot move this roof. The heavy soil acts like a giant silencer. It soaks up the noise of the world. You notice that the smoke from the fire does not just go straight out the hole. It curls and drifts around the beams first. Over the years, this smoke has left a thin layer of soot on the wood. This soot is actually a good thing. It acts like a natural paint that protects the wood from rotting and keeps bugs from eating into the logs. The wood feels hard and dry, almost like bone. There is a moment of deep silence as you watch the smoke. The lodge is very still. You can hear the wood groan just a little bit. This is a natural sound. As the heat from the fire warms the logs, the wood expands. When the fire gets low and the air cools, the wood shrinks. It is a slow, rhythmic sound, like the house is stretching its muscles before it goes to sleep. It reminds you that the lodge is made of living things. The trees may have been cut down, but they are still working. They are still holding up the world for you. You look up at the smoke hole again. It is a perfect square of dark sky, right in the center of the roof. Sometimes, when the snow is very heavy, a few white flakes will drift through the hole. They look like tiny, falling stars in the firelight. They never reach the floor. The heat from the fire usually melts them in the air before they can land. The hole is also where the light of the moon comes in. Tonight, the moon is bright, and a single beam of silver light is shining down, hitting the floor near the fire. It looks like a pillar of ghost light standing in the middle of the room. The roof is the part of the house that faces the sky. It takes the beating from the rain and the weight of the snow so that you don't have to. You feel a sense of pride in the cleverness of the building. It is a shape that fits the land perfectly. It doesn't fight the wind. It lets the wind blow right over it. It doesn't fight the cold. It uses the earth to stay warm. Everything about the roof is designed to work with nature rather than against it. You find yourself getting lost in the patterns of the wood. The way the rafters meet at the top is very neat and tidy. It looks like a giant star made of logs. You think about the people who stood on ladders made of notched tree trunks to tie those joints. They had to trust their work. If they did a bad job, the roof would leak or sag. But this roof is straight and true. It has the honor of a job well done. You take a deep breath, and you can smell the dry grass and the old wood. It is a dusty, pleasant smell. It is the smell of a place that has seen many families and many winters. As you continue to look up, your eyes grow heavy. The sight of the steady, strong beams is very relaxing. They aren't going anywhere. They are big, they are strong, and they are watching over you. You feel your body sink deeper into your soft furs. The roof is holding the world away, and you are free to drift off into a deep, dreamless sleep. The heavy beams are the last thing you see before your eyes close, and they look like strong arms wrapped around the heart of the home. You lie very still on your bed of furs, looking straight up. Right in the center of the roof, where the big logs meet, there is a square of deep, dark blue. This is the smoke hole. It is the only part of the lodge that stays open to the world outside, while the thick earth walls keep you hidden and the heavy door keeps you safe. This little window lets the lodge breathe. It is like an eye that never closes, always looking up at the Great Spirit and the stars. The smoke hole is not very big, perhaps only a few feet across, but even though it is small, it is the most important part of the ceiling. Without it, the fire in the middle of the room would fill the lodge with thick, grey clouds. You would not be able to see or breathe. But because of this hole, the warm air from the fire rises up in a straight line. It carries the smoke away, pulling it out into the cold night air. You watch a thin, silver ribbon of smoke as it drifts upward. It moves slowly, twisting like a snake, until it reaches the opening and vanishes into the dark. A historical fact about these smoke holes is that they were often used like a giant clock. Because the hole is always in the same place, the sun and the moon shine through it at different times. In the day, the beam of sunlight moves across the floor as the hours go by. The people in the lodge know that when the light hits a certain storage pit or a specific wooden post, it is time to eat or time to work. At night, the moon does the same thing. You can tell how much of the night has passed just by seeing where the moonlight falls on the packed earth floor. Tonight, the moon is very bright and full. It is a cold moon, the one that shines when the frost is deepest. A beam of white light is coming through the hole right now. It is so bright that it looks like a solid pole of silver reaching from the sky all the way down to the ground. It lands on the edge of the fire pit, making the grey ashes look like sparkling diamonds. You reach out your hand into the light. Your skin looks pale and ghostly in the moonbeam. It is a strange feeling to be deep under the earth and yet have the light of the moon touching your skin. Near the central fire, leaning against one of the big pillars, is a shutter pole. This is a very long, thin branch of willow with a small fork at the top. It is a simple tool, but you could not live without it. If a big storm comes and the snow starts to fall too fast, it could come down through the hole and put out the fire. When that happens, someone uses the shutter pole to reach up and move a cover over the opening. The cover is usually made of a light frame of wood, with a piece of animal skin stretched over it. With the pole, you can push the cover into place or tilt it so that it blocks the wind but still lets the smoke out. You watch the square of sky for a long time. It is a very deep color, almost black, but with a hint of purple. Because the lodge is so dark, the stars look much brighter than they do when you are standing outside. They look like tiny sharp points of white fire. You see one star that is bigger than the others. It does not twinkle, it just glows with a steady, calm light. You wonder if there is someone else in another lodge far away across the plains, looking up at that same star right now. The air that comes down through the hole is very different from the air inside the lodge. Every now and then, a little puff of wind finds its way in. It feels like a cold, wet finger touching your forehead. It smells of ice and frozen grass. It is a reminder of how lucky you are to be down here. Outside, the cold is sharp and dangerous. It can freeze the water in the rivers and make the trees crack with a sound like a gunshot. But that cold only gets to visit you for a second before the heat of the fire pushes it back up toward the roof. There is a moment of deep silence. You stop thinking about the work of the day. You stop thinking about the cold. You just watch the way the moonlight moves. It is very slow, so slow that you can barely see it moving at all. But if you close your eyes and open them again a few minutes later, the silver circle on the floor has shifted just a little bit. It is a very peaceful thing to watch. It feels as if the whole world is moving in a slow, steady rhythm, and you are just a small part of it. You listen to the sounds of the night. From high above, you hear the distant cry of an owl. The sound comes down through the smoke hole, muffled by the wood and the earth. It is a lonely, haunting sound. It makes you feel glad for the company of the people sleeping around you. You hear the soft crackle of a log in the fire, and the hiss of the last bit of moisture escaping from the wood. These small sounds are like a blanket that keeps the silence from being too heavy. The smoke hole also lets in the sounds of the wind. Even though the walls are thick, the opening in the roof acts like an ear. You can hear the wind whoosh as it passes over the top of the lodge. It sounds like the ocean, a constant rolling noise that never ends. It is a big sound, but it cannot get inside. The hole is big enough for the light and the smoke, but the earth and the wood are strong enough to keep the wind where it belongs. You feel your breath slowing down to match the rhythm of the fire. You look at the square of sky one last time. A small thin cloud drifts across the moon, and for a moment the beam of light on the floor fades away. The lodge becomes darker and more mysterious. Then the cloud passes, and the silver light snaps back into place, brighter than before. It is like a heartbeat of light. The smoke hole is your connection to the Great Spirit. It reminds you that even when you are hiding from the winter, you are still under the sky. You are safe in the belly of the earth, but you can still see the stars. You pull your furs up to your chin, feeling the warmth of the fire on your feet and the cool touch of the night air on your face. It is the perfect balance. You are warm, you are safe, and you are looking at the stars. With a long, slow breath, you let your eyes close, and the image of that bright, square window stays in your mind as you drift towards sleep. You stand up from your bed and walk slowly toward the very back of the lodge. This area near the outer walls is where the shadows are the deepest. It is also where the air feels the most still. You are heading toward the storage area, the place that holds the treasure of the summer and autumn. Without the food stored here, the winter would be a time of fear. But because the harvest was good, this part of the lodge smells like a promise. It smells of dried earth, sweet corn, and the dusty scent of sun-dried squash. As you walk, your feet feel the slight change in the floor. In certain spots, the ground feels a little different under your soft moccasins. These are the tops of the storage pits. You stop and kneel on the hard-packed earth. In front of you is a large circular cover made of thick bison hide, stretched over a wooden frame. You reach out and grab the leather handle, pulling the cover aside. A puff of cool, dry air rises up to meet you. This is a cache pit. A historical fact about these pits is that they were often shaped like a large bell. The opening at the top was narrow, just wide enough for a person to climb through, but the bottom was very wide. Some of these pits were so big they could hold over 100 bushels of corn. They were lined with dry grass and willow bark to keep the dampness away. This clever design kept the food at a steady, cool temperature all year round. It was like having a giant natural fridge buried deep under the floor. It kept the food safe from the freezing air above, and also from hungry animals like mice or wolves. You reach down into the dark opening. Your hands find something rough and crinkly. You pull it up into the dim light. It is a braid of corn. This is a braid of corn. This is a beautiful piece of work. After the corn was picked in the late summer, the women of the lodge sat together in the sun. They did not just throw the corn into piles. They took the husks, the leafy green skins of the corn, and braided them together while they were still soft. They made long, heavy ropes of corn, with the bright ears hanging down like jewels. You run your fingers over the kernels. They are not soft like the corn you might eat in the summer. They have been dried until they are as hard as little stones. Each ear is a different color. Some are a deep, dark red like the sunset. Others are a bright, cheerful yellow. There are even some that are a dusty blue or a deep purple. When you tap two ears together, they make a sharp clack sound. This corn is a special kind called flint corn. It is very tough, which means it will stay good for a long time. Even if the winter lasts longer than usual, this corn will not rot. You set the braid of corn down on the floor next to you. It looks like a pile of colorful treasure in the flickering firelight. Next, you reach back into the pit and pull out a large, heavy bundle wrapped in thin animal skin. You untie the leather string and open it up. Inside are hundreds of dried squash rings. You remember seeing these hanging from the ceiling beams earlier, but the main supply is kept down here in the cool dark. These rings were sliced from big round squashes that grew in the garden patches near the river. The squash rings feel like pieces of dry leather. They are a dusty orange color and have a sweet, earthy smell. You take one and hold it up to your nose. It smells like the warmth of the sun that hit the fields months ago. To eat these, you will drop them into a pot of boiling water. They will slowly soak up the liquid, turning from hard, dry circles back into soft, sweet pieces of food. It is a bit like magic. You can taste the summer even when there is 3 feet of snow outside the door. You sit there for a long time, surrounded by the harvest. This is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You look at the pile of corn and the bags of dried beans and squash. You think about the months of hard work that went into this. You think about the planting in the spring when the earth was soft and wet. You think about the long days of weeding under the hot sun and the busy, happy days of the harvest when everyone worked together to bring the food home. Seeing it all gathered here makes you feel a deep sense of peace. You are not just sitting in a house. You are sitting inside the results of your own labor. You are safe because you were clever and worked hard. The silence in this part of the lodge is very heavy. You are far enough from the fire that you can barely hear it. The only sound is your own breathing and the very faint scritch of the dry corn husks as they settle. It is a good kind of silence. It is the silence of plenty. You feel a weight lift off your shoulders. The winter can be as cold as it wants to be. The wind can roar until it loses its voice. It doesn't matter. Inside this circle of earth, there is enough food to keep everyone strong and healthy until the grass turns green again. You begin to put the food back into the pit, doing it with great care. You place the squash bundles at the bottom, then lay the braids of corn on top. You make sure the dry grass lining is still in place. You don't want any moisture to touch the grain. As you work, your hands get a little bit of fine white dust on them from the dried corn. You rub your hands together, and the dust feels soft, like flour. This dust is the start of a meal. Tomorrow, someone will take some of this corn and grind it between 2 flat stones to make a fine meal for porridge or bread. You pull the heavy hide cover back over the hole. You make sure it fits tightly. You even sprinkle a little bit of loose dirt around the edges to seal out any drafts. As you stand up, you feel a bit of a chill in the air away from the fire. You pull your bison rope tighter. Your body feels heavy and relaxed. The work is done for today. You have checked the stores, and the stores are good. You look back toward the center of the lodge. The fire looks small from here, a bright orange dot in the darkness. You start to walk back toward the warmth, leaving the quiet storage area behind. You pass the big wooden pillars and the hanging mats. Every step you take feels solid. You know exactly what is under your feet. You know the secrets of the earth and how it holds the food that keeps you alive. As you get closer to the fire, the light grows stronger. The orange glow catches the fur on your robe, making it look like it is vibrating. You sit back down on your sleeping mat, feeling the warmth return to your face. You think about the braids of corn resting in the dark, cool earth just a few yards away. They are like a heart beating quietly under the floor. You close your eyes and take a long, slow breath. The lodge is full of food, the fire is steady, and the night is quiet. You are rich in all the ways that truly matter. You let the feeling of safety wrap around you like a blanket, and you prepare to drift back into the soft world of your dreams. You settle back onto your willow backrest, but your hands do not want to be still just yet. Even in the middle of a cold winter night, there is always small, quiet work to be done. You reach into a small, woven basket near your bed and pull out a piece of soft, tan leather. This is deerskin, scraped and smoked until it feels as soft as a piece of thick cloth. Next to it, you find your most important tool for the night, a bone needle. This needle is a beautiful thing. It was made from a small, splinter-like bone from a deer's leg. It has been rubbed against a rough stone for hours until it is thin and very sharp at one end. At the other end, a tiny hole has been drilled to hold the thread. In your hand, the bone feels warm and light. It is much stronger than it looks. A historical fact about these tools is that bone needles were so valuable that they were often passed down from mothers to daughters. They were kept in special cases made of hollow bird bones to make sure they did not snap or get lost in the floor rushes. You are making a pair of winter leggings to keep the wind from biting your shins. To sew them, you are not using cotton thread. Instead, you are using sinew. You pick up a long, thin strand of it. It looks like a piece of yellowish, dried grass. To make it ready for sewing, you put the end of the sinew in your mouth for a moment. The warmth and moisture make it soft and flexible. Once it is soft, you twist it between your palms, making it into a strong, thin cord that will never break. You push the sharp bone needle through the edge of the leather. It makes a tiny pop sound as it pierces the skin. You pull the sinew through, stitch by stitch. The movement is slow and steady. You are not in a hurry. The fire provides just enough light for you to see your work. You watch your hands move in the orange glow. Your fingers look long and dark against the pale leather. This is the rhythm of the night shift. While the rest of the world is asleep under the snow, you are quietly building the things you need to survive the next day. As you work, you think about the animal that gave you this leather. You feel a sense of thanks. Nothing is wasted here. The meat fed the family. The bones became needles and hose, and the skin became clothes and blankets. Every stitch you make is a way of showing respect for that gift. You make the stitches close together, making sure the seam is tight. You want these leggings to be strong enough to walk through deep snow and thick brush without letting a single breath of cold air touch your skin. The lodge is very quiet now. Most of the other people are deep in their dreams. You can hear the soft, rhythmic hiss of someone breathing nearby. It sounds like the wind, but much softer and friendlier. You take a moment to stop sewing and just look around. The lodge feels different at this hour. The shadows seem to have moved closer to the fire. The big cottonwood pillars look like ancient trees that have decided to grow inside your house. You reach for a small piece of rabbit fur. You're going to sew this along the top of the leggings to make a soft, warm cuff. The fur is white and incredibly soft. When you touch it, it feels like a cloud. It is so light that even the tiny bit of air moving from the fire makes the hairs dance. You use the bone needle to catch the edge of the fur and pull it tight against the deerskin. The white fur looks bright against the tan leather. It is not just for warmth. It makes the clothes look beautiful too. Even in the middle of a hard winter, people like to have things that look nice. This is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You look at the tiny, even stitches you have made. They are like a row of small white teeth. You feel a sense of pride. You are taking simple things from the earther bone, a piece of skin, a bit of dried tendon, and turning them into something that will save your life. It is a very clever and powerful thing to do. It makes you feel strong and capable. You are not just a person waiting for the winter to end. You are a person who knows how to thrive in it. Your eyes feel a little heavy from the close work, so you set the leather down for a moment. You rub your eyes and take a long, slow breath. The air is still warm and smells of smoke and cedar. You look at the bone needle resting on the mat. It looks so small, but it is the key to everything. Without the ability to sew, humans could never live in a place as cold as this. This tiny piece of bone is what allows you to wrap yourself in the warmth of animals and stay safe from the ice. You pick up the needle one last time to finish the row. The sinew is getting short, so you tie a neat, tight knot. You use a small stone knife to snip the end. The knife is made of dark, glass-like flint and is very sharp. You tuck the needle back into its bird bone case and wrap the unfinished leggings in a piece of cloth. You will finish them tomorrow night, or perhaps the night after. There is no rush. The winter is long, and the nights are many. You lean back and stretch your arms over your head. You can feel the blood flowing back into your fingers. They feel warm and tingly. You look toward the fire, which has burned down to a beautiful deep red. The logs are no longer flaming. They are just glowing like a city of tiny coals. The heat is steady and soft. You feel a wave of deep tiredness wash over you. It is the good kind of tired that comes after doing useful work with your hands. You pour your bison robe over your shoulders and lie down. The fur feels heavy and good. You think about the leggings you are making and the bow needle tucked away in its case. You feel ready for whatever the morning brings. The lodge is a place of making and mending. It is a place where every small thing has a big purpose. As you close your eyes, you can still feel the texture of the leather in your mind. You drift off to sleep, feeling the safety of the thick earth walls and the quiet pride of a job well started. You reach out and pick up a small piece of wood from a basket near your sleeping mat. It is a piece of dried red cedar. Even before you move it closer to the heat, you can smell its sweet, sharp scent. It is a clean smell, one that reminds you of the high places and the deep forests. In the winter, when the air in the lodge can get a little heavy and dusty, this wood is a gift. You lean forward and place the cedar onto the hot stones at the edge of the fire pit. You do not want it to burst into a large flame. You just want it to smolder. Very quickly, a thin blue curl of smoke begins to rise from the wood. It is different from the smoke of the big cottonwood logs. This smoke is thick and creamy. As it drifts through the air, it fills the lodge with a wonderful aroma. It smells like a fresh forest after a summer rain. This is a historical fact. Many Native American groups used cedar smoke, not just because it smelled good, but because it was a natural way to keep the lodge healthy. The smoke helped to keep away tiny bugs and pests that might try to hide in the grass and furs during the long winter months. You sit back and watch the blue smoke travel. It does not go straight up like the main fire's smoke. Instead, it seems to like the cooler parts of the room. It drifts over toward the sleeping mats and the storage bags, wrapping everything in its sweet scent. You feel your lungs open up as you breathe it in. It feels light and clearing. It makes the air feel new, even though you have been inside for many hours. Next to you on the mat is a cedar fan. This is a simple but beautiful object. It is made from several large feathers from a hawk, bound together at the bottom with a piece of soft red leather. You pick it up and feel how light it is in your hand. The feathers are strong and smooth. You use the fan to gently push the cedar smoke toward the corners of the room. You move your wrist in a slow, circular motion. You can see the smoke dancing in the air, following the path you make with the feathers. The movement is very peaceful. You are not in a hurry. You are washing the air with the scent of the trees. As you move the fan, you think about the cedar tree this wood came from. Cedar trees are strong and stay green all year round, even when the snow is deep. By bringing the cedar into the lodge, you're bringing a bit of that strength and life inside with you. It is a way of remembering that the world is still alive out there, even if it is currently hidden under a white blanket of frost. There is a moment of deep silence as the smoke settles. You stop moving the fan and just let your hands rest on your lap. The lodge is now filled with a soft, hazy light. The orange glow of the fire looks different through the thin veil of cedar smoke. It looks softer, like the sun on a misty morning. You feel a deep sense of calm. The sharp edges of the day, the biting cold, the heavy lifting of wood, the long walk all seem to melt away. You are left with only the sweet smell and the quiet. You notice a small bundle of dried herbs hanging from a peg on one of the wooden posts. These are sage and sweetgrass. In the summer, these plants grow tall and green in the moist places near the river. Now, they are dried and tied into long braids. Sometimes, you might add a bit of sweetgrass to the fire as well. It has a smell like vanilla and warm hay. Between the cedar and the sweetgrass, the lodge becomes a place of peace. It is no longer just a shelter from the wind, it is a place where your spirit can rest and feel good. You look at the small piece of cedar wood on the stones. It has turned black and is glowing with a tiny red heart. It is slowly turning into grey ash, giving everything it has to the air. You think about how important these small things are. A big fire keeps your body warm, but the smell of cedar keeps your mind quiet. It is the night shift of the soul, while the body rests. These scents help you have good dreams and wake up feeling fresh. The smoke begins to fade, moving up toward the hole in the roof. It carries away the old, stale smells of the day. You feel as if the lodge has been cleaned without anyone moving a broom. You set the hawk feather fan back down on its special place. It has done its work. The air feels cool and sweet against your skin. You take one last deep breath, tasting the forest on your tongue. You look at the shadows on the wall. They seem friendlier now. The lodge feels like a living thing that is breathing with you. The thick earth walls hold the scent of the cedar, keeping it inside so that it will still be there when you wake up in the morning. You pull your bison robe up to your shoulders. The fur is soft and heavy. You feel a wave of sleepiness that is much stronger than before. It is a gentle pulling feeling, like a slow river carrying you away. The fire is now very low, and the red glow is soft. The smell of cedar is the last thing you notice as you close your eyes. It is a protective smell, a scent that says you are safe and all is well. You feel the weight of your body sinking into the soft willow mat. The world outside is a place of ice and wind, but inside, the air is sweet and the heart is quiet. You drift off into a deep, peaceful sleep, guided by the scent of the trees and the steady, silent watch of the earth. The sweet scent of the cedar still lingers in the air, but now it is joined by a much heavier and more mouth-watering smell. It is the scent of a meal that has been simmering for hours. You realize that your stomach feels empty after your long day, and the warmth of the lodge has a way of making you feel even hungrier. You sit up and move toward the central fire. In the middle of the hearth, sitting nestled between the hot, glowing stones, is the large clay pot you noticed earlier. It is full of a thick, hearty soup that is the lifeblood of the winter months. A historical fact about this meal is that it is often made of three special plants: corn, beans, and squash. These are known as the Three Sisters. The people who live in these lodges discovered long ago that these three plants grow better when they are planted together in the same mound of earth. The corn grows tall to provide a pole for the beans to climb. The beans put goodness back into the soil, and the wide leaves of the squash shade the ground to keep it moist. When eaten together, they provide everything a person needs to stay strong and healthy through the longest, coldest winters. You reach for a horn spoon resting on a clean mat nearby. This is a beautiful microhistory detail of daily life. The spoon was not made of wood or metal. It was carved from the thick black horn of a bison. To make it, the horn was soaked in boiling water until it became soft and rubbery. While it was soft, it was pressed into a wooden mold to give it a deep, rounded bowl and a comfortable handle. Now that it is dry and polished, it is hard and smooth, with a beautiful shine that catches the firelight. It feels cool in your hand, but it will not burn your lips even when the soup is very hot. You use a smaller clay bowl to scoop some of the soup from the big pot. The bowl is warm to the touch, and you have to hold it carefully. The soup is thick, almost like a stew. You can see the yellow kernels of corn that are plumped up after being dried in the sun. There are dark, speckled beans that have turned soft and creamy, and orange chunks of squash that have melted into the broth, making it thick and sweet. There are also small bits of dried bison meat that have been shredded into the mix, adding a salty, smoky taste to every bite. You take your first spoonful. The heat is the first thing you notice. It travels from your mouth down to your chest, spreading out like a warm blow. It feels as if the fire from the hearth is now moving inside your own body. The taste is simple but very deep. It tastes of the earth, the sun, and the smoke. It is not a meal you eat quickly. You take your time, savoring the way the different textures feel. The corn has a little pop when you bite into it, while the beans are as soft as butter. As you eat, you look around the lodge. You are not eating alone. Others have woken up or are sitting up in their beds, sharing from the same pot. There is very little talking. In the winter, a meal is a quiet and serious thing. It is a time to be thankful for the storage pits that are full and the hard work that was done in the summer. You watch the steam from your bowl rise up in a swirling cloud, It catches the orange light from the fire, turning into a golden mist before it vanishes into the shadows of the ceiling. This is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You hold the warm bowl against your palms, letting the heat soak into your skin. You think about how lucky you are. Somewhere outside, perhaps only 20 steps away, the wind is screaming across the empty plains. There is no food out there. The grass is buried under the ice, and the animals are hiding. If you were out there, the cold would be your only companion. But here, inside these 3-foot-thick walls of earth, you have a warm bowl of Three Sisters soup and a fire that never goes out. It makes you feel very small, but also very cared for by the land and your people. You scrape the bottom of your bowl with your horn spoon. The sound of the horn against the clay is a soft, rhythmic scritch, scritch. It is one of the many small sounds that fill the lodge at night. You realize that your hands are no longer shaky from the cold. Your toes feel warm inside your fur-lined moccasins. The food is doing more than just filling your belly. It is giving you the energy to keep your own internal fire burning. Every bite is a shield against the winter. You set your empty bowl down and take a sip of water from a skin bag. The water is cool and tastes slightly of the cedar wood that was used to make the frame of the bag. It cleans your palate and leaves you feeling refreshed. You lean back against your willow backrest, feeling a sense of deep satisfaction. This is what it means to survive the night shift. It is about preparation and patience. It is about knowing that if you take care of the earth during the growing season, the earth will take care of you when the snow falls. The lodge feels even cozier now that you have eaten. The shadows on the walls seem to be nodding in the flickering light. You watch the woman who is tending the fire as she adds a few more dried corn cobs to the flames. The cobs burn with a bright, quick light, making a cheerful crackling sound. They give off a sweet smell that reminds you of the harvest fields. The fire stays steady, a glowing orange heart in the center of the circle. You feel a wave of peace wash over you. The long winter night does not seem so scary when you have a full stomach and a warm place to rest. You think about the seeds that are still tucked away in the storage pits, waiting for their turn to be planted in the spring. Just like those seeds, you are tucked away in the earth, waiting and resting. There is no need to hurry. The sun will return when it is ready. For now, the darkness is a friend, and the silence is a song. You close your eyes for a moment, still feeling the warmth of the soup in your belly. The sounds of the lodge, the breathing, the fire, the distant wind all blend together into a soft, low hum. It is the sound of life continuing, even in the middle of a frozen world. You feel a deep gratitude for the bison that gave its horn for your spoon, the corn that grew tall in the sun, and the thick earth that holds you like a mother. You are safe. You are fed. You are home. The wind has changed. You can hear it from your place on the warm floor. It is no longer just a steady push against the walls. It has become a high, thin whistle that moves into a deep, heavy roar. It is a blizzard. This is the great storm of the midwinter, the one that the elders warned you about. It is a wind that comes all the way from the frozen north, picking up speed as it travels over the flat, empty plains. There is nothing to stop it, so it hits the village with all its strength. A historical fact about these storms is that they can last for 3 or 4 days without ever stopping. During a blizzard like this, the air outside is so thick with white snow that you cannot see your own hand in front of your face. If you stepped outside and walked just 10 paces away from the lodge, you could get lost and never find your way back. The snow is not soft and fluffy tonight. It is hard and sharp, like tiny grains of sand. It hits the frozen ground and the earthen roofs with a sound like 1,000 tiny drumming fingers. Inside the lodge, you are in a different world. You look up at the smoke hole, and the square of sky is no longer dark blue. It is a swirling grey-white. Every now and then, a gust of wind catches the top of the lodge just right, and a spray of fine icy snow falls through the hole. It looks like diamond dust in the firelight. Most of it melts before it hits the ground, but a few grains land on the hot stones of the fire pit and disappear with a tiny hiss. You reach for your buffalo robe and wrap it tightly around your shoulders. Even though the lodge is warm, the sound of the storm makes you want to feel the weight of the fur. This robe is a micro-history treasure. It was taken from a large bull in the late autumn when the fur was at its thickest and most curly. The hide was tanned with animal brains and fat until it became as soft as a blanket. On the inside, where there is no fur, someone has painted a winter count. This is a series of small red pictures that tell the story of past years, a year of a great flood, a year of many bison, and a year of a very long snow. You run your hand over the painted lines. The leather is cool, but the fur side against your back is incredibly warm. It traps the heat of your body so well that you feel like you are sitting inside a small oven. You listen to the thrum of the wind. It is a very deep sound, like a giant drum being beaten far away. You can feel the vibration of it in the earth walls. The 3 feet of packed soil and grass are working hard tonight. They are holding back a cold that could kill a person in minutes. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You stop moving and just listen. You think about how thin the line is between the warm life inside the lodge and the frozen world outside. If you were an animal out on the plain, you would be huddled in a gully, hoping the snow would bury you enough to keep you from freezing. But here, you are safe. You have wood, you have fire, and you have walls made of the very ground you stand on. It is a very humbling feeling. It makes you feel very small, but also very clever for knowing how to live with the land. You look at the big cottonwood pillars. They are the same trees that once stood in the river valley, facing these same storms. Now, they are the bones of your house. They don't move. They don't shake. They stand tall and hold up the tons of earth and snow. You feel a sense of friendship with the wood. It is protecting you. You watch the fire, which is the only thing moving in the room. The flames are being pulled slightly by the draft from the storm, dancing in frantic, jerky way. The blizzard makes the lodge feel even smaller and cozier than before. The shadows in the outer circle seem to press inward, huddled around the fire just like the people. You hear the soft creak of the willow rafters as the weight of the new snow piles up on the roof. This is actually a good thing. A historical fact about snow is that it is a great insulator. As the snow gets deeper on the roof, it traps more heat inside. The blizzard is actually helping to keep you warm by wrapping the lodge in a thick white quilt. You reach into a small bag and pull out a piece of dried plum. It is wrinkled and hard, but as you suck on it, the sweet, tart taste of the summer fruit fills your mouth. It is a tiny bit of sunshine in the middle of a grey storm. You close your eyes and imagine the plum trees by the river, covered in white blossoms instead of white snow. The memory makes the wind sound a little less scary. You know that the storm will eventually run out of breath. The sun will come back. The blizzard continues to roar. It is a lonely sound, the sound of a world that doesn't care about houses or people. But you are not lonely. You can hear the steady breathing of your family members in their beds. You can hear the soft rustle of the sleeping mats. You are part of a circle. The lodge is a circle, the village is a circle, and the people are a circle. As long as the circle stays together, the storm cannot get in. You pull the buffalo robe over your head, making a little tent of fur. The air inside your fur tent is warm and smells of your own breath and the faint scent of the tanned hide. It is the safest place in the world. You let the roar of the blizzard become a lullaby. It is a very loud song, but it is far away. It is on the other side of the earth, and the earth is strong. You feel your body getting heavier. The stress of the day and the fear of the storm are replaced by a deep, heavy tiredness. You trust the walls. You trust the roof. You trust the fire. You take a long, slow breath, feeling the fur of the robe tickle your nose. The blizzard will be there in the morning, and the lodge will be here too. You drift off into a deep sleep, tucked into the heart of the earth, while the world turns white outside. The blizzard is still roaring outside, but inside the lodge, the air has become quite dry from the constant heat of the fire. Your throat feels a bit parched, and you realize you need a drink of water. However, in the middle of a great winter storm, you cannot simply walk down to the river. The river is frozen solid under a foot of ice, and the path to the water's edge is buried under deep, shifting snowdrifts. Instead, you must rely on the water that the sky has provided. You stand up and walk toward the long entrance tunnel. Near the inner door, there is a large, hollowed-out log that acts as a water trough. Next to it sits several large baskets made of tightly woven willow and coated on the inside with thick, black pitch or resin to make them waterproof. These baskets are currently filled to the brim with clean, white snow that was gathered from the roof earlier in the evening. In the warmth of the lodge, the snow is slowly turning into clear, cold water. Historical fact about living in these earth lodges is that water was one of the hardest things to manage in the winter. While there was plenty of snow, it takes a massive amount of snow to make just a little bit of water, usually about 10 cups of snow for every 1 cup of liquid. The people had to be very careful not to waste a single drop. This water is precious. It is used for cooking the Three Sisters soup, for washing, and for drinking during the long nights when the wind makes it impossible to leave the house. You pick up a ladle made from the horn of a mountain sheep. This is a beautiful micro-history tool. Unlike the black bison horn spoons, this ladle is a pale, creamy yellow. It is much larger and has a handle that curves back over the bowl. The horn was heated and thinned until it became almost see-through. When you hold it near the fire, the light shines through it, showing the natural grain of the horn. It is light in your hand and holds the perfect cool drink. You dip the ladle into the melting snow. The water is ice cold, and you can see tiny bits of ice floating in the clear liquid. You take a long, slow drink. The water feels like a cold needle going down your throat, but it is incredibly refreshing. It tastes of nothing but the clouds and the high air. It is the cleanest water you've ever tasted. You feel it settle in your stomach, cooling your body from the inside and waking you up just a little bit. You pause for a moment, holding the ladle in your hand. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You look at the baskets of snow and the heavy wooden trough. You think about how clever it is to turn the very thing that is trying to freeze you into something that keeps you alive. The snow is a threat when it is blowing in the wind, but here, inside the warmth of the earth, it is a gift. It is a reminder that in nature, things are rarely just one thing. A blizzard is a danger, but it is also a giant supply of fresh water. You decide to help the process along. You take one of the smaller clay pots and fill it with snow from the basket. You walk back to the fire and place the pot near the hot stones, but not directly in the flames. You don't want the water to boil, you just want it to melt. You watch as the mound of white snow begins to shrink. The edges turn grey and then vanish into a pool of clear water. It happens very slowly, a quiet change that matches the slow pace of the lodge at night. As the snow melts, it makes a tiny tinkling sound, like a small bell. It is one of the many secret sounds of the lodge that you only notice when the world is quiet. You look at the steam rising from the pot as the water warms up. You think about the cycle of the water, how it fell as a flake of ice, was caught by a human hand, and is now being turned back into a cloud by the heat of the fire. You feel like a part of that cycle, a small piece of the world that is just moving from one state to another. You take another sip of the water, this time from the pot you just warmed. It is no longer icy. It is soft and tepid. It feels kind to your throat. You realize that you have a deep respect for this water. Every drop represents a trip outside into the cold or a careful moment of gathering. You make sure to pour any leftover water from your ladle back into the trough. Nothing is wasted. In the Earth Lodge, every resource is a friend that must be treated with care. The lodge is very peaceful now. The sound of the melting snow and the soft hiss of the steam are the only things you hear besides the distant roar of the wind. You feel a sense of balance. You have fire for warmth, earth for protection, and now water for life. You have everything you need to survive until the sun comes back. The blizzard can keep blowing. It is only providing you with more water for tomorrow. You set the mountain sheep horn ladle back on its mat and return to your sleeping area. Your thirst is gone and your heart is steady. You lie down on your furs, feeling the coolness of the water still in your chest. The lodge is a place of transformation. It turns the cold earth into a warm wall and the frozen snow into a life-giving drink. You feel safe in the hands of people who know these secrets. As you close your eyes, you think about the vast plains outside, covered in miles of white snow. It is a world of ice, but here you are tucked away in a small golden circle of warmth. You listen to the drip, drip, drip of the snow melting into the trough. It is a rhythmic, soothing sound that carries you towards sleep. You are well fed, you are warm, and you are no longer thirsty. You let the sound of the water guide you into a deep and quiet dream. You sit by the edge of the fire, the light from the dying embers casting long flickering shadows against the earth walls. In your hands, you hold a piece of history that has seen better days. It is a stone knife, a vital tool for everything from cutting meat to trimming leather. But tonight, it is broken. The sharp edge has a jagged chip in it from hitting a bone during the last harvest, and the wooden handle is starting to wobble. In a world where you cannot go to a shop for a replacement, mending what you have is a quiet, necessary skill. A historical fact about these tools is that they were often made of flint or chert. These are special types of stone that break in a very specific way. When you strike them, they don't just shatter like a pebble. They flake off in thin, razor-sharp slices. This is called knapping. A well-made stone knife can be sharper than a modern steel blade, but it is also brittle. It requires a gentle hand and constant care to keep it useful. Tonight, in the stillness of the lodge, you are going to restore its edge. You reach into your small tool bag and pull out your pressure flaker. This is a microhistory detail of the highest importance. It is a short, thick handle made of wood, with a tip made from the hardest part of a deer's antler. The antler is strong enough to push against the stone without snapping, but soft enough to grip the edge of the flint. You also lay a thick piece of leather across your palm to protect your hand from the tiny, glass-like shards of stone that will soon be falling. You hold the knife firmly against the leather in your palm. You place the tip of the antler flaker against the jagged chip in the blade. You don't hit it. Instead, you lean your weight into it, applying a steady, heavy pressure. You feel the tension building in your arm. Then, with a tiny clink sound, a small flake of stone pops off. It falls onto the floor, a sliver of flint as thin as a fingernail. You move the tool just a fraction of an inch and repeat the process. Clink, clink, clink. The sound is rhythmic and small, a tiny heartbeat of work in the middle of the night. You are not just fixing a tool, you are sharpening your survival. As you work, you look at the edge of the blade. The jagged gap is slowly disappearing, replaced by a row of tiny, perfect scallops. This is a serrated edge, and it will cut through the toughest bison hide like it is water. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. There is something very grounding about working with stone and bone, the oldest materials known to your people. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You stop for a second to brush the stone dust off your leather pad. You look around the lodge. Everyone else is a dart shape under a pile of furs. Their breathing steady and slow. You feel like a guardian. While they sleep, you are making sure the tools of the family are ready for the morning. You think about the stone itself. It came from a high ridge many miles away. It was formed deep in the earth, millions of years before you were born. Now it is in your hand, helping you live through this one specific winter night. It is a very long chain of time, and you are just the latest link in it. Next, you turn your attention to the handle. It is made of a piece of weathered oak, split down the middle to hold the stone blade. The glue that holds it together is a mixture of bison hide glue and wood ash. Over time, the heat and the dry air of the lodge have made the glue brittle, which is why the blade is wobbling. You reach for a small pot of glue that has been warming near the fire. It is thick, dark, and smells strongly of animals and the forest. You use a small twig to dab a bit of the warm glue into the crack of the handle. Then, you reach for a fresh strand of sinew. You wrap the sinew around the wooden handle, pulling it so tight that your fingers turn white. You wrap it over and over, crisscrossing the stone and the wood until they are locked together in a tight embrace. As the sinew dries, it will shrink, pulling the handle even tighter. By morning, the knife will feel like a single, solid piece of bone and stone. You hold the finished knife up to the light of the fire. The new edge sparkles, catching the orange glow. It looks dangerous and beautiful at the same time. You run your thumb very carefully along the flat of the blade, feeling the coolness of the stone. You are proud of this work. It didn't require a forge or a hammer, just patience, a piece of antler, and the steady pressure of your own body. The lodge is very still now. The clinking of the stone has stopped, and the silence seems even deeper than before. You pack your tools back into their leather bag, the antler flaker, the spare flint, the bundle of sinew. You tuck the bag under your sleeping mat. You lay the mended knife beside it, where you can reach it easily in the dark. It is a good feeling to know that if you need to cut a cord or prepare a meal tomorrow, your tool is ready. You lean back and watch the last of the smoke drift toward the roof. Your hands feel a little tired from the pressure of the napping, but it is a pleasant ache. It is the feeling of being useful. In the night shift, every small task, fixing a shoe, stirring a pot, sharpening a knife, is a victory against the winter. You are not just waiting for the spring, you are making sure you are ready for it when it arrives. You pull your furs up to your chin. The earth walls are silent, holding back the roar of the blizzard. You feel a deep connection to the ground beneath you and the stone in your hand. Both are ancient, both are strong, and both are keeping you safe tonight. You close your eyes, the image of the sparkling flint edge fading into the soft dark of your dreams. You are a maker, a mender, and a survivor. And for tonight, that is enough. You move away from the fire and step toward your sleeping area. After the work of sharpening your knife and mending your clothes, your body is calling for rest. In the earth lodge, a bed is not just a place to lie down. It is a carefully built nest designed to keep you warm when the fire burns low in the middle of the night. Your bed sits on a raised wooden platform, lifting you off the hard-packed dirt floor. This keeps you away from any dampness or cold drafts that might crawl along the ground. You look down at your sleeping mats. These are the base of your bed, and they are a micro-history marvel of comfort. They are made from thousands of long, thin reeds gathered from the riverbank during the late summer. The reeds were laid out side by side and woven together with strong twine made from nettle plants. These mats are light, but they are very springy. When you lie on them, they give just enough to fit the shape of your body. Much like a modern mattress would, they also trap a layer of air beneath you, which helps to hold your body heat. A historical fact about these sleeping areas is that they were often enclosed. Many families would hang large tanned bison hides from the rafters to create walls around their beds. This turned each sleeping platform into a little room of its own. Inside this small space, the heat from your own breath and body would stay trapped, making it much warmer than the rest of the lodge. It was a house within a house. A clever way to stay cozy without needing a massive fire all night long. You climb onto the platform and feel the reeds crunch softly under your weight. It is a dry, musical sound that tells you the bed is clean and well kept. On top of the reed mats, you have spread several soft deerskins with the hair still on. These feel like velvet against your skin. Finally, you pull your heavy bison robe over you. The fur is thick and curly, and as soon as you pull it up to your chin, you feel a wave of warmth. It is as if the winter has been shut out completely. You lie still, feeling the weight of the blankets. They are heavy, but it is a good weight. It feels like a firm, steady hug. You look out through the gap in your hanging hide curtains. From here the lodge looks different. The fire in the center is just a soft red glow now. The big cottonwood pillars look like giant, silent guardians standing watch over the sleeping village. You can hear the soft sounds of other people shifting in their beds, the rustle of dry grass, and the occasional pop from the hearth. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You realize that this is the heart of the night shift. While the wind screams and the snow piles up outside, the most important job you have is simply to stay still and rest. By resting, you save your energy for the work of the morning. You think about the people who slept in this very spot before you. They used the same grass, the same wood, and the same animal skins. You feel a deep connection to them. You are part of a long line of people who found a way to be comfortable and safe in a very hard land. The smell inside your sleeping nest is wonderful. It smells of the sweet dry river reeds and the musky scent of the bison fur. There is also a hint of the smoke from the fire and the cedar you burned earlier. It is a rich, earthy smell that makes you feel like you are part of the ground. You are tucked into the earth, wrapped in the gifts of the animals, and protected by the work of your hands. You feel a sense of deep peace. You reach out and touch the wooden post next to your bed. You remember the knife you just mended, resting safely in its bag beneath you. Everything is in its place. The storage pits are full, the water trough is topped up with melting snow, and the fire is resting under its blanket of ash. There is nothing left to do but let go of the day. You feel your muscles begin to melt into the soft mats. Your toes, which were so cold just a few hours ago, are now warm and happy. You listen to the wind again. It is still there, a distant, muffled roar. But here, in your nest of grass and fur, the wind cannot touch you. It is like a ghost that can only scream at the walls. You feel a little bit of pride in your clever home. It takes the worst the world can throw at it and turns it into a quiet hum. You are a clever creature, you think to yourself. You have learned the secrets of the soil and the hair and the wood. Your breathing slows down. You watch a single spark rise from the fire pit, floating up toward the smoke hole like a tiny orange firefly. It vanishes into the dark, and you let your eyes close. The darkness behind your eyelids is warm and soft. You feel as if you are floating on a calm lake. The night shift is a time of healing and dreaming. It is the time when the earth takes care of you, so that tomorrow you can take care of the earth. You pull the bison robe a little higher, tucking it under your chin. The fur is soft against your cheek. You think about the spring that will eventually come, the green grass and the returning birds. But for now, the winter is your friend. It has given you this time to be still and quiet. It has brought you inside, to the heart of the home. You let out one last, long sigh, and the sound of the wind fades away into the deep, sweet silence of sleep. You find yourself wide awake in the middle of the night, a common occurrence when the winter nights are so long. You decide to check the entrance of the lodge to make sure the cold is staying where it belongs. You slide out from under your heavy bison robe and move toward the front of the house. The lodge is a great circle, but it has one long arm that reaches out into the dark. This is the entrance tunnel. It is not just a doorway, it is a piece of clever engineering that keeps the lodge warm and the people safe. A historical fact about these tunnels is that they are built to face the east. This is done for two reasons. First, the strongest winter winds usually come from the north and west, so an eastern door is sheltered from the worst of the storms. Second, it means that the very first light of the rising sun will shine straight down the tunnel and into the lodge, telling the people that a new day has begun. The tunnel is often 10 or 15 feet long, creating a thick buffer between the warm living space and the frozen world outside. You reach the inner end of the tunnel. To enter it, you have to duck your head and step over a raised wooden sill. The tunnel is lower and narrower than the main room. As you step inside, you feel the air change immediately. It is much cooler here, but it is not freezing. This is because the tunnel acts as a cold trap. The cold air is heavy. It sinks. When the wind blows against the outer door, the cold air gets caught in this low passage. It cannot easily rise up and over the sill into the main lodge where the warm, light air is floating. You crawl forward a few steps on your hands and knees. The walls of the tunnel are made of thick cottonwood posts and packed earth. Just like the rest of the lodge, you can feel the coolness of the soil through your leggings. In your hand, you carry a small torch made of tightly bundled birch bark. You haven't lit it, but the smell of the papery bark is strong in the small space. It is a micro-history detail of how people moved through the dark. Birch bark contains natural oils that make it burn brightly and slowly, even if it is a little damp. As you move deeper into the tunnel, the sound of the lodge fades. The crackle of the fire and the breathing of the sleepers become muffled. In here, the only sound is the huff of your own breath and the distant, thin whistle of the wind through the cracks of the outer door. It feels like being inside the throat of a giant animal. It is a very private, quiet place. You stop for a moment, resting your hand against a wooden support post. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You realize that this tunnel is the bridge between two worlds. Behind you is the world of humans' fire, soup, and family. Ahead of you is the world of nature ice, wind, and the wide, empty plains. You feel a great sense of gratitude for the people who built this. They didn't just build a wall, they built a path that filters the world. They understood that you cannot fight the winter, but you can lead it into a trap and keep it away from your bed. You reach the outer door. It is a heavy frame of willow, covered in 2 layers of thick, stiff bison hide. You check the edges to see if any snow has blown inside. A small pile of white powder has gathered at the bottom, looking like salt in the dim light. You use your hand to brush it back toward the door. The snow is so cold it feels like it is burning your skin for a second. You make sure the leather thongs that hold the door shut are tied tight. They have shrunk in the cold, making the knot hard and firm. You lean your head against the door for a moment. You can hear the blizzard clearly now. It is a shriek, followed by a heavy thud as a gust of wind hits the lodge. You can feel the door vibrate against your forehead. It is a powerful reminder of how lucky you are to be on this side of the leather. Outside, the world is a white chaos where nothing can stand still. But here, just a few inches away, the air is quiet. You are safe in your burrow. You turn around and begin to crawl back toward the main room. As you move toward the inner opening, you see the faint orange glow of the fire at the end of the tunnel. It looks like a warm, welcoming eye. As you step over the wooden sill and back into the large room, the warmth hits you like a soft wave. It feels incredible. Your skin, which had grown chilly in the tunnel, begins to tingle as the warm air wraps around you again. You walk back to the central fire. You add 1 small log to the embers just to keep the heart of the house beating. The flame catches quickly, casting your shadow long and thin across the floor. You look back at the tunnel opening. It is a dark rectangle in the wall, a secret passage that keeps the cold at bay. You feel a deep sense of satisfaction. The cold trap is working. The village is sealed. You return to your bed and slide back under your bison robe. The transition from the cold tunnel to the warm bed makes the fur feel even softer than before. You think about the cleverness of the low entrance and the long dark path. It is a reminder that survival is not just about being strong. It is about being smart. It is about knowing how the air moves and how to use the earth to protect your life. Your eyes grow heavy as you listen to the muffled sounds of the storm. You know that the tunnel is standing guard, catching the freezing air and holding it tight so that it cannot reach you. You feel as if you are tucked into the very center of a great warm mountain. You take a long, slow breath and let the quiet of the lodge carry you back to sleep. The watch is steady, the trap is set, and the night is yours to rest. In the deep middle of the night, when the fire is just a low humming glow, the lodge is not always silent. Sometimes, the long hours of darkness are filled with the soft, steady sound of a human voice. You sit up in your bed and see an older man sitting by the hearth. He is an elder, someone who has seen 80 winters or more. He is not sleeping. Instead, he is speaking in a low murmur to a few young people gathered near the warm stones. This is how the night shift becomes a time of learning. Without books or paper, the history of the world lives in the breath of the old ones. A historical fact about these stories is that they were often owned by certain people. You could not just tell any story you wanted. Some tales were only told in the winter, once the first snow had touched the ground. The people believed that if he told these stories in the summer, the spirits of the woods and the animals might get distracted from their work. But in the winter, when the world is sleeping, it is the perfect time to bring the past back to life through words. You move closer to the circle, wrapping your robe around your shoulders. You don't want to miss the wisdom. The elder is holding a talking stick. This is a microhistory detail of great respect. It is a piece of polished driftwood, smooth as bone, decorated with a single eagle feather and a few beads of blue glass. When the elder holds the stick, everyone else remains silent. It is a sign that he has the floor and the wisdom of the ancestors is moving through him. The stick feels heavy with the weight of all the stories it has heard over the years. The elder is telling a story about the first winter. He describes how the people once lived above the ground in houses of thin bark and how the north wind tried to blow them away. He speaks about how the badger, a clever animal that lives in the soil, showed the people how to dig down into the earth to find safety. As he speaks, he uses his hands to paint pictures in the air. His fingers move like the wind, then curl into the shape of a digging badger. His voice is like the sound of dry leaves skittering across the ice thin, but very clear. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You look at the faces of the young people. Their eyes are wide, catching the red light of the embers. They are not just hearing words, they are absorbing a way of life. You realize that this is how the village stays strong. The thick earth walls protect your bodies, but these stories protect your minds. They remind you who you are, where you came from, and how to survive when things get difficult. In the silence between the elders' sentences, you can hear the blizzard outside, but it feels less like a monster and more like a character in the story. The elder talks about the importance of patience. He explains that the winter is a time for the earth to dream, and that humans must learn to dream with it. He tells you that the corn seeds in the pits are listening, and that the way you behave in the lodge, being kind, sharing your food, and staying quiet, helps the seeds know that it is a good world to wake up into when the spring comes. It is a very beautiful thought. It makes the act of sitting in the dark feel like a sacred duty. You notice a small bundle of tobacco near the elder's feet. Every now and then he takes a tiny pinch of the dried leaves and drops it onto a hot coal. It does not make a flame, but it releases a thin, sweet-smelling puff of smoke. This is a gift to the spirits of the story. It is a way of saying thank you for the knowledge. The smell of the tobacco blends with the scent of the cedar and the soup, creating a smell that you will always associate with safety and learning. As the elder finishes his tale, he sets the talking stick down on a clean mat. He looks at each of you with eyes that are cloudy with age, but bright with kindness. He doesn't need to ask if you understood. The silence in the lodge is the answer. You feel a sense of peace that is deeper than just being warm. You feel like you belong to a long, unbroken chain of people who have sat around this same fire in this same earth, listening to these same truths. The young people move back to their beds, their footsteps silent on the packed earth. You stay for a moment longer, watching the elder as he leans back against his willow backrest. He looks tired but satisfied. He has passed on a little bit more of the world's memory, and now he can rest. You nod to him, a silent thank you, and he offers a small, slow wave of his hand. You walk back to your own sleeping platform. The lodge feels different now. It is no longer just a building made of mud and wood. It is a library. It is a temple. It is a place where the past and the future meet in the middle of a cold night. You lie down and pull your bison robe up. The stories are swirling in your head, mixing with the rhythm of the wind. You think about the badger and the corn and the patient earth. Your breathing matches the slow, steady rhythm of the elder's voice. You feel a deep confidence. The winter may be long and the snow may be deep, but you have the wisdom of 80 winters to guide you. You are never truly alone in the dark. You are surrounded by the stories of your people, and they are as warm and solid as the walls around you. You close your eyes, letting the last of the elders' words carry you into a dream where the grass is always green and the sun never sets. You wake up when the lodge is at its quietest. The elder has returned to his bed, and the young people are deep in their dreams. The fire has burned down to a low, pulsing mound of red embers. This is the time of the midnight watch. Even though the lodge is safe, someone must always be awake to tend the heart of the home. Tonight it is your turn. You slide out from the warmth of your furs, the cool air of the room touching your skin for just a moment before you wrap your robe tightly around you. You move silently to the center of the lodge, your feet knowing the way even in the near darkness. The fire pit is a beautiful sight in the middle of the night. The embers look like a city of glowing jewels. You can see deep oranges, bright yellows, and soft dusty purples where the ash is beginning to form. You reach for the hearth bellows. This is a micro-history tool made from the whole skin of a small animal, like a fox or a marmot. The neck of the skin is tied around a hollow wooden tube, and the back is fitted with 2 wooden slats. By pulling the slats apart and pushing them together, you can blow a steady stream of air into the coals without getting your face too close to the heat. A historical fact about these winter fires is that the wood used was carefully chosen for its burn time. During the day, people might burn cottonwood or willow, which catch fire quickly and give off a lot of light, but for the midnight watch, you use hardwood like oak or ash, or even the thick, dense bark of an old tree. These materials burn slowly and hold their heat much longer. They are the long-distance runners of the fire world, designed to last until the first light of dawn. You lean forward and use the bellows to blow a gentle breath of air onto the largest coal. It glows a brilliant, angry white. You carefully place one heavy log of oak across the embers. You don't want a big, roaring flame that will wake everyone up or use up the wood too fast. You just want the wood to catch and sit there, smouldering and releasing a steady, gentle heat. You watch as a tiny blue flame licks the side of the bark, turning into a small, flickering orange tongue. The log groans as the heat enters the wood, a soft sound that is lost in the vast space of the lodge. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You sit cross-legged on the floor, watching the fire. In this moment, you are the most important person in the village. You are the one keeping the cold at bay. You are the one making sure the 3 sisters in the pot stay warm and that the children stay tucked in their beds. It is a heavy responsibility, but it feels good. It makes you feel connected to the very beginning of time, back to the first humans who ever sat around a fire in the dark. You feel a sense of quiet power. You are the watchman of the night. The lodge feels different when you are the only one awake. You notice things you didn't see during the busy hours of the day. You see the way the light of the single log catches the texture of the big cottonwood pillars, making them look like they are made of wrinkled skin. You see the way the smoke doesn't just go up. It curls and dances, tracing the invisible paths of the air in the room. You hear the tick-tick of a beetle in the roof beams, and the distant muffled crump of a snowdrift falling off the side of the lodge. You reach into a small basket and find a handful of dried willow bark. This isn't for the fire, it is for you. You put a small piece in your mouth and chew it slowly. It is bitter, but it helps to keep you alert. Willow bark has a special medicine in it that takes away the aches in your muscles from the day's work. As you chew, you look up at the smoke hole. The blizzard has passed, and the sky is now a clear, freezing black. You can see the stars again. They look like ice crystals pinned to a dark velvet robe. You realize that the night shift is not just about survival. It is about witnessing the world when it is at its most honest. In the day, there is noise and movement and the sun, but at night, there is only the truth of the cold and the steady promise of the fire. You feel a deep respect for the balance of it all. The darkness is necessary so that the light can mean something. The winter is necessary so that the spring can be a celebration. You take a long, slow breath, feeling the warm air fill your lungs. You move a few of the hot stones around the edge of the pit using a wooden poker. You want the heat to be spread evenly so that the floor nearby stays warm. The stones are so hot that they feel like they are vibrating. You think about how they will still be warm tomorrow morning when the children come to sit by the fire to put on their moccasins. You are preparing the world for them. You are making sure they wake up into a place that is kind and safe. The log you added is now glowing steadily. It doesn't need any more attention for a while. You lean back against the central pillar, feeling the solid strength of the wood against your spine. You feel a wave of peacefulness. The watch is going well. The house is breathing. The village is tucked under its blanket of snow, and the fire is doing its job. You let yourself drift into a state of waking sleep, where your eyes are open and your ears are sharp, but your mind is as still as a deep pond. You listen to the silence. It is a thick, rich silence that feels like it has a weight to it. It is the silence of the earth holding its breath. You are part of that silence. You are a small, warm spark in the middle of a vast, frozen universe. You feel a sense of pride in your people and your home. You have taken the dirt and the wood and the fire, and you have made a world. As you sit there, the time passes in a way that is hard to measure. The stars move across the smoke hole, and the log burns down inch by inch. You are not tired. You are simply present. You are the watchman. You are the one who stays awake, so that the world can sleep in peace. You take one last look at the fire, satisfied with its steady glow, and prepare to keep your silent vigil until the first hint of grey appears in the eastern tunnel. You sit back by the fire, the oak log now settled into a steady, glowing coal. Your eyes fall upon your feet, and you notice that your moccasins look a bit tired. The leather is dry and dusty from the ash of the lodge, and the winter snow has left faint white salt lines near the soles. In this environment, your shoes are as important as your roof. If they become stiff and crack, the cold will find its way to your skin. So, while the rest of the lodge sleeps, you decide to give them the care they deserve. You reach for a small, round clay jar tucked away in a corner of your storage area. When you open the wooden lid, a heavy, rich scent fills the air. This is bison tallow. It is the hard fat taken from the animal and melted down until it is pure and smooth. In the cold of the lodge, it has turned into a solid, white cream. This tallow is a microhistory treasure. It is not just food, but a medicine for leather, a waterproof coating for tools, and even a base for the paint used on winter counts. Historical fact about these winter shoes is that they were often made with the fur left on the inside. While summer moccasins were thin and light for running through the grass, winter ones were built like soft boots. They were usually made from the thick neck skin of the bison, which is the toughest part of the hide. By rubbing fat into the leather, you make it waterproof. Without this grease, the snow would melt against the warmth of your foot, soak the leather, and then freeze solid when you stepped into a shadow. Greasing your shoes is the difference between a comfortable walk and a dangerous case of frostbite. You pick up a small piece of old, soft buckskin to use as a grease rag. You scoop a bit of the white tallow out of the jar and hold it near the fire for a second. The heat turns the solid fat into a clear, shimmering oil. You begin to rub the oil into the surface of your moccasin. You move your hand in slow circular motions. You can hear the soft swish, swish of the rag against the dry leather. It is a very soothing sound, like the rhythm of a heartbeat. As you work, you watch the leather change. It goes from a dull, thirsty grey to a deep, rich brown. The leather seems to drink the oil, becoming soft and flexible again. You pay special attention to the seams, the places where the bone, needle and sinew held the pieces together. These are the places where the water likes to sneak in. You push the grease deep into the stitch holes with your thumb, making sure every gap is sealed. Your hands become shiny and warm from the fat and the heat of the fire. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You hold the greased moccasin in your hands and feel its weight. It feels alive again. You think about how much this shoe has done for you. It has carried you over frozen rivers and through tall, sharp grass. It has protected you from the bite of the stones and the sting of the cold. You feel a sense of gratitude for the bison that gave its skin and its fat, and for your own hands that know how to keep things in good repair. In the night shift, you learn that nothing lasts unless you look after it. Peace comes from the simple act of caring for the things that care for you. The lodge is very still. The only other sound is the occasional click of a cooling stone in the fire pit. You look at your hands. The bison fat has made your skin feel incredibly soft. In the winter, the dry air can make your skin crack and bleed, so this quiet task is also a treat for your body. You rub the leftover oil into your knuckles and palms, feeling the tension of the day's work leave your fingers. You pick up a bone awl to clear out a small bit of dried mud from the sole. The awl is a sharp-pointed tool made from a bird's leg bone. It is thin and elegant. You use the tip to gently scrape away the dirt, making the leather clean before you apply the final layer of grease. You work with the focus of a craftsman. Even though no one is watching, you want the job to be done perfectly. Your life depends on the quality of your gear, and there is a quiet pride in doing things the right way. Once the first moccasin is finished, it looks beautiful in the firelight. It has a soft glow that catches the orange flames. You set it down on a clean mat and start on the second one. The process is the same: scoop, heat, rub, and seal. You find yourself falling into a sort of trance. The repetitive motion of your hand and the warmth of the fire make the time move in a strange, slow way. You aren't thinking about the blizzard or the long months of winter left to go. You are only thinking about the leather and the oil. You notice a small patch of rabbit fur lining the ankle of the shoe. It is a bit matted from use. You use your fingers to fluff it up, making it soft and airy again. This fur traps a layer of warm air right against your skin, acting like a fluffy cloud around your foot. You make sure no grease gets on the fur, as that would make it lose its warmth. It is a delicate balance, keeping the outside tough and waterproof while keeping the inside soft and dry. When both moccasins are done, you line them up neatly near the hearth. You don't put them too close to the flames, or the leather will shrink and become brittle. You place them just far enough away that the residual heat from the stones will help the oil soak deep into the grain of the hide. They look like two small animals resting by the fire. You feel a sense of completion. Your feet will be warm tomorrow, no matter how deep the snow is. You wipe your hands on a clean piece of grass and then wash them with a tiny bit of warm water from the pot. The water beads up on your skin because of the oil. You look at the fire, which is still holding its steady glow. The midnight watch is nearly over. You feel a deep sense of calm. You have tended the fire, you have listened to the stories, and now you have mended your shoes. The lodge is a place of constant quiet preparation. You walk back to your bed, your bare feet feeling the smoothness of the packed earth floor. It is cool, but not cold. You slide back under your bison robe, and the fur feels wonderful against your legs. You think about the morning when you will slide your feet into the soft, greased leather. You will feel the warmth and the suppleness, and you will know that you are ready for the day. You close your eyes, the scent of the bison tallow still on your fingers, and drift into a dream where you are walking easily over a world made of soft, white clouds. You lie back on your sleeping mat and let your head rest on a pillow made of soft buckskin filled with dry moss. The fire is very low now, just a tiny orange eye in the middle of the big dark room. In this moment, the lodge is so quiet that you can hear the blood moving in your ears. It is a slow, steady thrum-thrum sound. This is the time when you truly feel where you are. You are not just in a house. You are deep inside the body of the earth. You are tucked into the soil like a treasure hidden away from the world. A historical fact about these earth lodges is that they were some of the quietest homes ever built by human hands. Because the walls and the roof are made of 3 feet of packed dirt and grass, they act like a giant sponge for noise. Outside, there might be a pack of wolves howling at the moon, or the wind might be snapping the branches of the cottonwood trees. But inside, you hear none of it. The earth takes all those loud, sharp sounds and swallows them up. It turns a screaming storm into a tiny, distant hum that is no louder than a bee's wing. You reach out your hand and touch the floor next to your bed. The ground feels cool and very, very solid. You run your fingers over a small smoothing stone that has been left on the floor. This is a microhistory detail of how the home was kept. Every few weeks, even in the winter, the women would use these smooth, heavy stones to rub the floor. They would use a little bit of water and press down hard, polishing the dirt until it became as hard and shiny as a piece of dark glass. It feels cool and silky under your fingertips. It doesn't feel like dirt anymore. It feels like a finished floor made of dark honey. The silence of the earth is different from the silence of a forest or a field. It feels heavy and thick. It is a silence that has been around for thousands of years. As you lie there, you think about the millions of tons of soil that surround the village. You think about the roots of the grass above you, sleeping in the frost. You think about the little animals, the mice, and the moles who are also tucked into their own burrows nearby. You are all part of the same secret world. You are all guests of the earth, staying warm while the sky is cold. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You close your eyes and imagine the weight of the roof above you. You don't feel afraid of it. Instead, you feel a sense of incredible safety. It is like being back in the womb or being held in a pair of giant, gentle hands. The earth doesn't care about the wars of men or the changing of kings. It only knows how to hold things. It holds the seeds, it holds the water, and tonight it holds you. You feel your heart rate slow down to match the slow, deep rhythm of the ground. In the deep quiet, your other senses seem to grow sharper. You can smell the very faint metallic scent of the damp clay near the entrance. You can smell the dry, sweet scent of the willow mats. You can even hear the tiny tink of a single grain of sand falling from a roof beam onto the floor. These sounds don't bother you. They are like small jewels of sound in a vast ocean of quiet. They remind you that even when everything is still, the world is still alive and moving in its own way. You think about the night shift of the land itself. While the sun is gone, the earth is busy. It is soaking up the moisture from the snow. It is protecting the insects that are hiding deep in the cracks of the soil. It is holding onto the heat from the summer, keeping it deep in its belly so that the frost cannot reach the heart of the world. You are a part of that work. By staying still and quiet, you are helping the earth do its job. You are giving the world a chance to rest. You reach for a small medicine bag that hangs from a leather cord around your neck. Inside is a single dried leaf of sage and a small piece of turquoise stone. You rub the stone between your thumb and finger. It is smooth and cold. The stone was found deep in the ground in a place far to the south. It is a piece of the earth's bone. Holding it makes you feel connected to all the other people who live in the ground, in all the different parts of the world. You are all brothers and sisters of the soil. The lodge is so still that you feel as if you could hear a dream. You imagine the stories the elder told earlier, drifting through the air like invisible smoke. Those stories are now part of the silence. They have soaked into the walls and the floor, becoming part of the house. Everything that has ever happened in this lodge, the laughter, the crying, the singing, and the working, is still here, held safely by the thick earth walls. Nothing is ever truly lost when you are in the heart of the ground. You feel a wave of sleepiness that is deeper than anything you have felt before. It is not just your body that is tired. It is a peaceful heaviness that goes all the way to your soul. You feel as if you are melting into the mats, becoming one with the floor and the walls. The deep quiet is a gift. It is the prize you get for surviving the wind and the cold. It is the reward for being patient. You take a long, slow breath, and the air feels cool and clean in your throat. You look at the tiny glow of the fire one last time. It looks like a single star at the bottom of a deep well. You feel a sense of profound gratitude. The earth is your floor, your wall, and your roof. It is your mother and your protector. You are tucked in, you are safe, and the world is quiet. Your eyes close, and you let yourself sink into the darkness. It is a kind, soft darkness that smells of old wood and fresh soil. You are no longer an individual person with worries or tasks. You are just a small, warm heartbeat inside the great, silent body of the earth. You drift off to sleep, listening to the silence, and feeling the steady, ancient strength of the ground holding you close through the long, frozen night. The fire is now a bed of soft grey ash with only the occasional wink of a red coal. As you lie in the deep stillness, your mind begins to drift away from the frozen present. You find yourself thinking about the world that is waiting just beneath the snow. You are dreaming of spring. Even though the wind is still biting and the river is a solid road of ice, you know that the seasons are a circle. Just as you are resting in this lodge, the entire world is resting, preparing for the great waking that comes when the sun stays longer in the sky. A historical fact about life in these lodges is that the coming of spring was not just a change in weather, it was a return to life. The people used the night shift of winter to prepare everything they would need for the planting season. They didn't just wait, they got ready. They knew that as soon as the frost left the ground, they would need to be out in the fields. The winter was the time for dreaming and planning, so that the spring could be a time of doing. You reach out and touch a small bundle of seeds hanging from a nearby post. This is a micro-history treasure of hope. These are sunflower seeds, kept in a small bag made from the bladder of an elk. The bladder is a perfect storage container. It is thin, light, and completely waterproof, keeping the seeds dry and safe from rot. You can feel the small, hard shapes of the seeds through the thin skin. Each one is a tiny promise. Each one holds the memory of a tall yellow flower that follows the sun across the sky. You imagine the day when the snow begins to turn into slush. You think about the sound of the river cracking, a sound like a loud drum, as the ice breaks apart and begins to flow again. You can almost smell the scent of the wet earth as it wakes up. It is a sharp, fresh smell, very different from the dusty warmth of the lodge. In your mind, you see the first green shoots of the prairie grass poking through the brown, dead leaves. They are so small and delicate, but they are strong enough to push through the heavy mud. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You realize that the winter is necessary for the spring to be beautiful. If the sun shone hot all year round, the earth would get tired and dry. The snow is a gift that gives the ground a drink and a rest. You feel a sense of patience. You are not trapped in the lodge. You are tucked in. You are learning the lesson of the seed, that sometimes the most important thing you can do is just wait in the dark and grow strong on the inside. You think about the garden patches down by the river. You imagine the women walking out with their scapular hoes, the bison bone tools you remember from the building of the lodge. You see them clearing away the old stalks of corn and making new mounds in the soft, dark soil. You think about the three sisters being placed in the ground together, the corn, the beans, and the squash. You can almost feel the warm sun on your back and the mud between your toes. It is a happy, busy thought that makes the cold night seem much shorter. You listen to the rhythm of the lodge. It is a slow, steady pulse. In the spring, this rhythm will speed up. There will be the sound of children running outside, the thwack of axes cutting fresh wood, and the singing of the birds. But for now, the quiet is good. It gives you time to think about what you want to do when the world turns green. You want to make a new pair of light moccasins. You want to go to the river and catch the first fish of the season. You want to stand on the roof of the lodge and feel the warm wind in your hair. You reach for a small piece of dried mint that you kept in a pouch. You put a leaf on your tongue. The taste is cool and sharp, like a breath of spring air. It wakes up your mouth and makes you feel refreshed. Mint grows in the damp places near the creek, and its taste is a direct link to the sunny days. It reminds you that the world hasn't forgotten how to be green. It is just taking a very long nap. The lodge feels a little brighter in your mind as you think about these things. You look at the dark shapes of the storage baskets and the hanging tools. They're all waiting for the spring, just like you. The bone hoe is waiting for the mud. The willow baskets are waiting for the berries. The wooden lodge pillars are waiting to hear the sound of the rain on the roof instead of the hiss of the snow. Everything is in a state of ready waiting. You feel a wave of deep contentment. You are part of a wonderful, moving story. The winter is just one chapter, and the next one is going to be full of light and growth. You don't need to rush it. You can enjoy the warmth of the fire and the safety of the earth for as long as it lasts. You know that the sun is moving, even if you can't see it yet. Each night that passes is one night closer to the first flower. Your breathing becomes very slow and shallow as you drift toward a deeper sleep. Your thoughts of spring become a dream. You are walking through a field of tall grass, and the wind is no longer a roar, but a soft tickle against your skin. The sky is a bright, clear blue, and the air is filled with the scent of flowers and wet earth. You are happy and warm, and the long sleep of the winter has made you feel as light as a bird. You pull your bison robe closer, the fur feeling like the soft grass of your dream. You are safe in the belly of the Mother Earth, and she is dreaming of spring with you. The silence of the lodge is a peaceful blanket, and the darkness is a kind friend. You let yourself go, sinking into the soft green world of your imagination, while the snow continues to fall silently on the world above. You are pulled from your quiet thoughts of spring by a soft sound at the entrance of the lodge. It is not the wind, and it is not the shifting of snow. It is a rhythmic thumping, the sound of someone knocking a walking stick against the wooden frame of the outer door. You sit up, your bison robe sliding to your waist. In a village of earth lodges, no one is ever truly alone. When the blizzard is at its worst, the families watch out for one another. You stand up and move toward the tunnel, your feet finding the familiar path through the dark. At the end of the tunnel, you find a neighbor. He is wrapped in a heavy robe, his face red from the biting air, and his eyelashes are white with frost. In his hands, he carries a fire carrier. This is a microhistory detail of how people shared the spark of life. It is a large clamshell lined with thick wet clay and filled with glowing hardwood coals. To keep the coals from going out in the wind, he has covered them with a layer of dry ash and another shell on top. He has come because his own fire has died in the night, and he needs a seed of flame to start it again. A historical fact about these villages is that sharing fire was a sacred duty. If a family's hearth went cold, it was not just an inconvenience, it was a danger. By sharing your coals, you were sharing the life of your home. It was a way of weaving the village together into one big family. Even in the middle of a storm, people would risk the cold to ensure their neighbors were warm. You take the shell from his frozen hands and lead him back toward the central hearth. You kneel by your fire and use a pair of willow tongs to select 3 of your best, brightest coals. You place them carefully into his shell. The red light reflects in his tired eyes, and for a moment the two of you sit in silence. You don't need many words. The act of giving fire says everything that needs to be said. You are both survivors. You are both part of the night shift, keeping the village alive while the world is frozen. He nods a silent thank you, closes his shell carrier, and disappears back into the dark tunnel. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You stand in the center of the lodge, listening to his retreating footsteps. You feel a warm glow in your chest that has nothing to do with the fire. It is the feeling of being useful to others. You realize that the Earth Lodge is not just a shield against the weather, it is a place where humans learn to take care of each other. The thick walls keep the heat in, but the kindness of the people keeps the spirit warm. In the middle of a blizzard, a single coal can be the most valuable thing in the world. You look at your own fire. It seems a bit smaller now that you have given some of it away, but it burns with a steady, cheerful light. You add a few handfuls of dried bark to the flames. This bark is from a cedar tree, and it catches quickly, sending a shower of tiny, bright sparks up toward the roof. The smell is sweet and sharp. It fills the lodge, chasing away the smell of the coal that the neighbor brought in with him. You watch the sparks as they drift, thinking about how your fire is now growing in another house just a short walk away. The lodge feels very peaceful again. You walk around the circle, checking on the storage pits and the water trough. Everything is in order. You notice a small bone whistle hanging from a peg near the door. It is made from the wing bone of an eagle. In the summer, it might be used in a dance or a ceremony, but in the winter, it is a tool for safety. If someone were lost in the snow, a sharp blast on this whistle could guide them back to the sound of the village. You touch it gently, feeling the smoothness of the bone. It is another small way the people watch over each other. You return to your bed, but you don't lie down right away. You sit and watch the shadows on the wall. They seem to be dancing more softly now. You think about the night shift as a chain of helping hands. The hunter caught the bison, the woman tanned the hide, the builder raised the pillars, and tonight you shared the fire. No one survives the winter alone. It takes a whole village of people, all doing their small parts to keep the darkness at bay. The wind outside has settled into a low, mournful hum. It sounds like a tired animal that has given up on trying to get inside. You feel a deep sense of security. You are part of a community that is as solid and reliable as the earth walls themselves. You know that if your fire ever went out, someone would walk through the snow to bring you a new one. This knowledge is better than any blanket. It makes your heart feel light and your body feel relaxed. You lie back and pull your furs up to your chin. The scent of the cedar smoke is still strong, a clean and protective smell. You think about the neighbor, now back in his own lodge, blowing on the coals you gave him to wake up a new flame. You imagine the orange light growing in his house, warming his children and his elders. It is a beautiful thought to go to sleep with. You have done a good deed, and the world is a little bit warmer because of it. Your eyes grow heavy, and the sounds of the lodge begin to fade into a soft, blurry hum. You are not just a person sleeping in the ground. You are a link in a chain of life. You are a guardian of the fire, and a friend to your neighbors. You take a long, slow breath, feeling the peace of the night wrap around you like a soft robe. The earth is holding you, the fire is watching you, and the village is safe. As you drift off, you see the image of the glowing shell in your mind. It looks like a tiny sun, carrying the promise of warmth and life through the dark. You smile in your sleep, feeling the deep, quiet joy of belonging. The winter is long, but the people are strong, and the fire is shared. You sink into a dreamless rest, tuck into the heart of the world, knowing that all is well in the village of the earth. You stand in the center of the lodge, leaning your hand against one of the 4 main pillars. This is a cottonwood post, and it is the very spine of the house. You can feel the strength of the wood beneath your palm. It is rough in some places, and smooth in others where people have leaned against it for many years. These pillars are not just logs. They are the giants that hold the sky, or at least your sky from falling down. You look up and see where the post meets the roof beams, a place where the weight of the entire world seems to rest. A historical fact about these pillars is that they were often chosen for their spirit as much as their strength. When the men went into the river valleys to find timber, they looked for trees that had stood tall against the floods and the winds. They believed that the strength of the living tree would stay in the wood even after it was cut. These cottonwood pillars can last for decades, becoming harder and more seasoned with every fire that burns in the hearth. They are the oldest members of the household, silent and steady. You notice a small mark carved into the wood at shoulder height. It is a counting notch. This is a micro-history detail of how the people kept track of the passing years. Every year that the family lived in this lodge, a small line was cut into the pillar with a sharp stone knife. You run your finger over the notches. Some are deep and old, almost worn away by the touch of many hands. Others are fresh and sharp. There are 22 notches on this post. That means this house has seen 22 winters of snow and 22 springs of green grass. It has held the lives of babies who are now grown men and women. You lean your forehead against the cool wood. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You realize that you are just a small part of the life of this house. The pillars were here before you, and if the river is kind and the earth is dry, they will be here after you. They have heard the laughter of feasts and the quiet whispers of the night. They have felt the heat of 1,000 fires and the vibration of 1,000 storms. Standing here, you feel very small, but also very supported. You are leaning on the past, and it is holding you up. The wood smells of old smoke and dried sap. It is a comforting, ancient smell. You think about the day this pillar was brought here. You imagine the whole village working together to raise it, using heavy ropes of braided bison hide to pull it upright into its deep pit in the ground. It was a day of singing and hard work. Now, that work is what allows you to sleep in peace while the wind roars. The pillar is doing its job without a sound. It doesn't complain about the weight of the earth. It just stands there, faithful and strong. You look up the length of the post to the top. The firelight catches the dust motes dancing in the air around the wood. The rafters lean against the top of the pillar, spreading out like the branches of a tree. It looks like a giant wooden umbrella. You think about the engineering of it, all how the weight is pushed down through the pillars and out through the walls. It is a perfect balance. If one pillar were to rot or break, the whole lodge would suffer. But these pillars are solid. They are made of the best wood the river had to give. You reach into a small pouch and pull out a piece of dried fat. You rub it into the wood near the base of the pillar. This is a small act of care. The dry air of the winter can make the wood crack, so adding a little oil helps keep it healthy. As you rub, the wood turns a dark, beautiful amber color. It looks like it is glowing from the inside. You feel a sense of connection to the tree. You are looking after it, and it is looking after you. The lodge is very quiet. The only sound is the soft scuff of your hand against the wood. You listen to the house. It has its own voice. Sometimes the pillars make a loud crack sound in the middle of the night. This is not the wood breaking. It is the wood talking as it reacts to the cold. It is a reminder that the lodge is a living thing. It breathes, it moves, and it feels the weather just like you do. You find the sound comforting, like the cracking of knuckles or the settling of a heavy body into bed. You move away from the pillar and walk back to your sleeping mat. You look back at the 4 central posts standing in the shadows. They look like 4 tall men standing guard around the fire. You feel a deep sense of security. You know that as long as those pillars stand, you have a home. You have a place where the winter cannot reach you. You have a sanctuary in the middle of the frozen plains. You lie down and pull your bison robe over you. The weight of the robe matches the feeling of the lodge, heavy, warm and safe. You think about the notches on the post and the 22 years of history they represent. You wonder who will make the next notch and what stories that year will bring. You feel like you are part of a great, slow-moving river of time. The pillars are the anchors in that river, holding everything in place. Your eyes close, and the image of the strong cottonwood post stays with you. It is a symbol of everything that is good about the lodge: strength, patience, and the ability to carry a heavy load with grace. You feel your body relax, sinking into the soft mats. The house is holding its breath, and you are free to dream. You let go as the day, trusting the wood and the earth to keep the sky where it belongs. The night has been long, perhaps the longest you have ever known. In the heart of winter, the darkness stretches out, taking up far more of the world's time than the light. You lie in the deep shadows of the lodge, listening to the silence. It is a heavy, thick silence that feels like a physical weight on your chest. You look toward the smoke hole, and it's still a deep, inky black. There is no hint of grey, no promise of the sun. This is the time when the brain starts to wander, when the hours feel like they are made of slow-moving honey. A historical fact about these winter nights is that the people often practice segmented sleep. Instead of sleeping for 8 hours straight, they would wake up for a few hours in the middle of the night to talk, eat, or work on small crafts, and then go back to sleep until dawn. This was a natural way to handle the long darkness. It made the night feel less like a wall and more like a quiet room where you could get things done. In the night shift, time is not a clock. It is a feeling. You reach for a small gaming stone that you keep in a leather pouch. This is a micro-history detail of how people passed these long hours. The stone is a plum stone, a pit from a wild plum tree that has been dried and polished until it is smooth and black. On one side it has been carved with a small white star. On the other side it is plain. You toss the stone into the air and catch it over and over. The click-clack of the stone against your palm is a rhythmic, soothing sound. It gives your hand something to do while your mind waits for the morning. You sit up and move toward the fire pit one last time. You don't want to add another big log. The morning will be here soon enough. Instead, you take a small bundle of dry grass and toss it onto the coals. It bursts into a bright, quick flame that lights up the whole lodge for a few seconds. In that flash of light, you see the familiar shapes of your home, the storage bags, the hanging corn, the sleeping faces of your family. It is a beautiful sight. Then the grass burns away, and the room returns to its soft orange glow. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You realize that you have a new respect for the light. In the summer, the sun is always there, and you take it for granted. But in the winter, you have to make your own light. You have to nurture it and protect it. You feel a sense of pride in your ability to live through the dark. You are not afraid of the shadows. You have learned to live with them. You are a creature of the night as much as the day, and the earth has taught you how to be patient. The lodge feels very still, but it is a living stillness. You can hear the soft rustle of the willow mats as someone turns over in their sleep. You can hear the very faint hiss of the steam from the water trough. These small sounds are like the heartbeat of the village, even though the world outside is frozen and dead. Inside this circle of earth, life is continuing. It is a slow, steady pulse that never stops. You feel a deep connection to that pulse. You are a part of the lodge, and the lodge is a part of you. You think about the morning. You imagine the first bit of grey light creeping down the entrance tunnel. You think about the smell of fresh wood being added to the fire and the sound of the first voices of the day. It will be a good morning. The blizzard is over, and the world will be white and clean. You will go outside and see the way the snow has changed the shape of the land. It is a new world every morning in the winter. You reach for a small piece of charcoal from the edge of the fire pit. You use it to draw a small, simple shape on the palm of your hand, a circle with a dot in the middle. This is a sign for the sun. It is a way of calling the light back to the world. The charcoal feels cool and dusty on your skin. You close your hand into a fist, holding the sun inside your palm. It is a small, secret ceremony, a way of telling the universe that you are ready for the day. The night shift is almost over. You can feel it in the air. The darkness doesn't feel quite as heavy as it did an hour ago. The silence is starting to soften. You lean back against your willow backrest, feeling a sense of deep peace. You have survived the long night. You have tended the fire, mended your tools, and listened to the stories of the elders. You have done your duty as the watchman of the home. You feel a wave of gentle tiredness wash over you. It is the best kind of tired, the kind that comes from a job well done. You lie down on your furs and pull your bison robe up to your chin. You are no longer waiting for the morning. You are just resting until it arrives. You know that the sun is coming, and that is enough. The world is a safe place, and the earth is a kind mother. Your eyes close, and you drift into a light, peaceful sleep. You no longer hear the wind or the crackle of the fire. You only feel the warmth of the furs and the solid strength of the ground beneath you. You are a seed in the soil, tucked in and warm, waiting for the first touch of the light. You are safe. You are home, and the morning is just a heartbeat away. You wake up to a change in the air. It isn't a sound or a light, but a feeling. The deep, dry cold of the midnight hours is being replaced by a soft, heavy dampness. You sit up and look at the walls of the lodge. In the dim light of the morning embers, you notice that the earth looks darker than it did yesterday. It looks moist. This is the first sign of the great thaw, a time when the world starts to weep before it wakes up. A historical fact about these earth lodges is that they were built to breathe with the seasons. When the spring thaw began, the heavy layer of frozen soil on the roof would slowly start to soften. The people had to be very careful during this time. While the earth held the heat in, it also held a lot of water. If the roof got too heavy with melted snow, the men would have to climb up and shovel the slush off with wide wooden paddles. It was a messy, wet job, but it was the only way to make sure the home stayed strong and dry. You reach for your scrape stick near the door. This is a micro-history tool made from a flat piece of bone with a curved edge. It is used to clean the floor when the earth becomes damp. As the ice in the ground begins to melt, a tiny bit of moisture can seep through the floor, making it feel a little sticky. You use the scrape stick to pull the top layer of damp soil away, keeping the living area clean and firm. The sound of the bone against the earth is a wet, rhythmic schlup, schlup. It is a new sound for the new season. You walk toward the entrance tunnel and notice something wonderful. A small drop of water is hanging from the edge of a roof beam. It catches the very first faint light of the morning and sparkles like a diamond. You watch it grow bigger and bigger until it finally falls, landing in the dirt with a tiny splat. This is the first song of the spring, the drip of the melting ice. It tells you that the sun is winning its battle against the frost. The long sleep of the winter is nearly over. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You stand under the smoke hole and look up. The sky is no longer that hard, freezing black. It is a soft, misty grey. You can't see the stars anymore, but you can see the clouds moving quickly. You feel a sense of relief that is as heavy as the snow. You have made it. You and your family have lived through the longest nights and the deepest cold. You feel a deep pride in your lodge. It has held you safely in its belly, keeping you dry while the world was made of ice. Now it is letting the water go, preparing to turn green again. You notice a small bundle of willow catkins that someone brought in yesterday. They are the fuzzy silver buds that appear on the willow trees just before the leaves come out. They feel like the soft fur of a rabbit. They are a sign that the sap is moving in the trees. Even though there is still snow on the ground, the life inside the wood is waking up. You touch one of the buds and feel its softness. It is a promise that soon you will be walking among the trees, hearing the birds instead of the wind. The lodge smells different today. The dry scent of dust and smoke is being replaced by the smell of wet earth and fresh air. It is a clean, sharp smell that makes you want to stretch your muscles. You look at the storage pits. They are nearly empty now, but that is a good thing. It means you used exactly what you needed. You've timed your life perfectly with the rhythm of the land. You have enough corn for a few more meals, and by then, the first greens will be appearing in the river valley. You think about the work ahead. Soon, the village will be a busy place. The roofs will need to be patched with fresh mud. The gardens will need to be cleared. The bison robes will be taken outside to be beaten and aired in the sun. It will be a time of loud voices and fast movement. But for this one last moment, you enjoy the quiet. You enjoy the feeling of the lodge softening around you. It has been a good winter. It has been a time of stories and slow work and deep rest. You reach for a small clay cup and catch a few drops of the meltwater from the roof beam. You drink it down. It is cold and tastes slightly of the earth and the wood. It is a communion with your home. You are drinking the very thing that protected you. You feel the water move through your body, waking you up from the inside. You are ready for the light. You are ready for the world to turn again. You walk back to your bed and begin to pack your winter things. You tuck the bone needle into its case and fold your heavy leggings. You won't need them much longer. You feel a sense of lightness in your chest. The night shift is coming to an end. The watch is nearly over. You look at the central fire, which is now just a pile of grey ash. You don't need to add another log. The sun will do the work of the fire today. Your breathing is deep and steady. You feel a sense of peace that is as solid as the cottonwood pillars. You have lived in the ground, and the ground has been kind to you. You have learned the secrets of the dark, and now you are ready for the secrets of the light. You take one last, long breath, feeling the damp, fresh air fill your lungs. The world is waking up, and you are waking up with it. You lie down for a few more minutes, listening to the drip, drip, drip of the roof. It is a soothing, happy sound. It is the sound of the Earth Lodge saying, "Well done. You have survived. You are safe. You are warm. And the morning is finally truly here." You stand at the very end of the entrance tunnel, your hand resting on the heavy bison hide door. For months, this piece of leather has been the only thing between you and the frozen world. It is scarred from the wind and stained by the winter snow, but it has held strong. You can feel a change in the air pressure, a soft push from the outside that feels different from the angry shove of a blizzard. You take a deep breath, and for the first time in a very long time, the air in your lungs doesn't smell of wood smoke or dried grass. It smells of wet stone, melting ice, and the first faint scent of waking mud. You pull the leather thongs that hold the door shut. They are no longer frozen stiff. They are soft and supple in your fingers. You push the door open, and a sliver of light cuts through the darkness of the tunnel. It is so bright that you have to squint your eyes. The light is not the pale, tired grey of a winter afternoon. It is a sharp, brilliant gold that makes the world look brand new. You step out of the tunnel and onto the ground, feeling the transition from the belly of the earth back to the surface of the world. The world above is a beautiful mess. The deep snowdrifts that once buried the village have shrunk, turning into patches of white lace against the dark, wet ground. Small streams of meltwater are running everywhere, carving tiny canyons in the mud and singing a cheerful, bubbling song. The air is cool, but the sun on your face feels like a warm hand. It is a historical fact that the first day of spring was a day of great celebration for the people of the Earth Lodges. It was the day the night shift officially ended. Families would come out of their homes to stand on the roofs, greeting the sun and watching for the first birds to return from the south. You walk toward the center of the village, your boots making a heavy squelch in the soft mud. You reach into a small bag at your waist and pull out a bird bone whistle. This is your microhistory treasure for the morning. It is made from the hollow wing bone of a crane, polished until it shines like white glass. You lift it to your lips and blow a long, clear note. The sound carries across the quiet village, a bright signal that the winter is over. From other lodges, you hear the same sound echoing back. It is a conversation of whistles, a way of saying, "We are here and we are alive." You find a dry spot on the south side of your lodge and sit down, leaning your back against the earthen wall. The wall is still cool, but the sun is already starting to warm the surface. There is a moment of deep silence and reflection. You look out across the plains, which are still mostly brown and grey, but you know what is happening under the surface. You know that the seeds are waking up and the roots are stretching. You feel a deep sense of accomplishment. You didn't just survive the winter, you lived through it with grace and patience. You learned the secrets of the earth, and those secrets have kept you whole. The sun feels incredible on your skin. You realize how much you have missed its touch. In the lodge, the fire provided warmth, but it couldn't provide this feeling of life. You stretch your arms out wide, letting the light soak into your sleeves and your hair. You feel like a plant that has just been given its first drink of water after a long drought. You are growing again. The heaviness of the night shift, the long watches, the mending of tools, the careful saving of food is lifting off your shoulders. You are light and free. You watch a small brown bird land on a nearby willow branch. It shakes its feathers and lets out a tiny experimental chirp. It is a scout, the first of many that will soon fill the air with music. You smile, watching the bird's quick, busy movements. It is a reminder that the world is moving fast again. Soon, there will be no time for sitting and dreaming by the fire. There will be fields to plant, bison to follow, and rivers to cross. That for this one morning, you are content to just sit and be still. You look back at the entrance of your lodge. It looks small and humble from the outside, just a mound of earth with a wooden tunnel. But you know the truth of it. You know that inside that mound is a world of warmths and stories. You know that the 4 cottonwood pillars are still standing tall and the 3 sisters are still waiting in their pits. The lodge has been your mother and your shield, and you feel a deep love for the mud and the wood. It has done its job perfectly. The morning light is growing stronger, turning the wet ground into a field of sparkling diamonds. You take one last long look at the horizon. The sky is a vast open blue, and there isn't a single cloud to be seen. The winter was a time of circles and shadows, but the spring is a time of straight lines and light. You feel a surge of energy in your blood. You are ready for the work. You are ready for the sun. You are ready for the world. The sun is climbing higher now, and the shadows of the village are growing short. You can hear the voices of children and the sound of dogs barking as the village wakes up to the new season. Your long watch in the deep earth is finally over. The air is soft, the ice is gone, and the world is open to you once more. You feel a deep, quiet safety in your heart, knowing that you have the strength to face the winter and the wisdom to enjoy the spring. Take a moment now to feel the weight of your own blankets, the softness of your pillow, and the steady rhythm of your own breath. The stories of the night have been told, and the fire has been tended. You are tucked away in your own safe space, protected and warm. The history of the Earth Lodge is now a part of you, a reminder that you are always held by the ground and watched over by the stars. Let the image of the golden spring sun fill your mind as you drift into a final, peaceful rest. You have done well. The world is at peace, and so are you. The sun is rising. The gates are opening. The watch is ended.